Everybody? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Borough of Cliffs regular meeting of the Mayor and Council. Today is December 13th, 2023. It's 7 p.m. in the evening. I call this meeting to order in live format and also in Zoom format, virtual format, pursuant to the Zoom application. This is my last regular meeting after 8 years. And I calculated it's probably been over 200 meetings between regular meetings, special meetings, emergency meetings, sensical meetings. We had a lot of meetings. And I think we still hold the record in the state of New Jersey, the great state of New Jersey, for a meeting that lasted 12 and a half hours on a Sunday beginning at 2 in the afternoon. So I'm going to break that record tonight. I hope you're with me on that. I won't consider it a big failure if we don't, though. Okay. All right. I would the clerk can read into the record and statement of compliance.
So this meeting has been provided in accordance with Open Public Meetings Law, PM 1975, Chapter 231, setting forth the date, time, and place and purpose of this public meeting through a legal notice published in the record, posted on the borough website and on the bulletin board.
Thank you. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Kranjak?
I'm here.
Member Villari?
Here.
Member Katrubis?
Here.
Member Kim?
Here.
Council President Luciano?
Present.
Member Simon?
Here.
Member Di Gregorio?
Here.
Administrator Stern?
Here.
And Attorney Mensch.
Thank you. Would everyone please rise to salute the great flag of the country? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I may indulge you also for a moment of silence for the following individuals who passed since our last meeting. Helen Zangi, who I adored, she was awesome. Antonio Giustra, Frank Trincolito, and Sergeant Ryan Peterson's grandmother, Olive Peterson. Just a moment of silence, please. And our condolences go out to their families. Next on our agenda is the charity project. We have been supporting the Office of Concerned Food Pantry at St. Cecilia's Church in Englewood for many, many years now. And I hope this is one of the things that continues after my tenure as mayor. It's a great project and there's a lot of people who are helped by it. So it's one of those things that completely non-political and it's a lot of good for a lot of people. There's over 1,000 families registered at that food pantry. Department reports, Mr. Neville, you're up, the DPW Superintendent Mark Neville. One of the things I recently said when I noticed that there's a lot of leaves, right? But we are Tree City, USA. So with Tree City come a lot of leaves, and it's just like clockwork, right? Every year. So until we can train our squirrels to actually remove those leaves, I think you're it, Mark. So you need the team.
Council, community, substation will continue. I spoke to my contact shortly around Thanksgiving. All seems to be moving well. Seems to be cooperating with their work. Yes, the work continues. And I like the point of that project where we assess the requirements regarding the road improvements, the road restoration that will take place shortly after they're done over there. Still install. Not sure what the main is still here. They're going to be wrapping up their smoke testing and still more cleaning. With the wrap, some of that for Barney to wrap it on. Speaking of, man, new season is coming to a close. We're making our last pass now. I want to thank everybody for their patience. No accidents, no injuries, and we got it done. And I know we fell behind a little bit, with the holidays in there, with Veterans Day and Thanksgiving, but to thank the staff because everything.
Some equipment trouble also.
But it's so one machine was down, but action. We had equipment, the vehicle action took place, launched on November 7th, and for 2 weeks on the 21st. Piece sold November 7th to the 21st is when the actual auction. November. Yeah, we're in December now. Yeah. Everyone be sold. 2 pieces to just.
What's left? Do you want to sell it now?
No.
What's left?
Just the leftovers, the fire engine from the fire department.
Just a guy.
Those are
Come on, dead. No, all right, they passed. All right, we're stuck with it.
Right, but you said the total. Actually, it was $27,520.
Okay, thank you.
So,
That's good.
considering the storms we've had, I have not been any buildings or damage any property or anything like that. So, received offer an assistance grant through the state, and we received a stormwater assistance grant for $25,000. That was approved, and I'm working with the state on that regarding the details of what that will cover and what we wanted to do. I attended a safety meeting on Monday. Risk managers is pleased with the borough's incentives regarding employee safety against employees' injuries. Everything seems to be moving in the right direction that way. Lastly, the recycling calendar should be printed and just about done this week, and will be out by the end of the year.
Thanks very much. Does anyone have questions for Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. DiGregorio.
What piece of equipment was not working?
It picks up the leaves, yeah.
Do we have a vacuum?
No, not that. I'm looking to replace one for next year.
Do we have a broken vacuum? No vacuum whatsoever.
No, just we use your machines.
Okay.
Run until leaves, yeah.
And what's the status on hires?
So I had my candidate that I had scheduled for an interview, unfortunately was involved in an accident. He's okay. We scheduled that appointment and then move forward. Hopefully,
Okay. Have you had a lot of applicants?
a handful, not many. Yeah.
It is possible. I know that the hearing is not, you're not supposed to 200, but still, may I ask where you're advertising?
Charlie's and. Okay.
Bergen Record?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And there's also some free areas also, free websites that can be posted on there. What about intrigued by PSE&G? A lot of calls, a lot of complaints about the roads and the streets and the danger. Who do you have contact, or does the administrator have contact?
Touch with them, we voice the problems that we see. They need to have protection around their equipment and make it more visible for residents. This one in particular has had some issues that almost had an accident the other day, probably the same one that.
The ones on Floyd overnight are very dark. They need a flasher. Yeah, they need a flasher or something.
I was told that they would try to put different flashing things out there, but it hasn't, just have to follow.
Can't find a flasher.
There was an email recently about Second Street, that was to you, I think, the email, that there was a defect in the pavement, there was a hump there. Do we have, I know some towns make an arrangement, the utilities, that we hold a bond or we have some money in escrow. So if there are any eventualities like that need to be remedied quickly, that the town can go ahead and use that money to do that. Do we have an arrangement like that?
Well, that project is a PSE&G private project, and we're on our projects, yes.
So PSE&G is looking in Englewood Cliffs right now. Throughout this project, there's been things going on that nobody had any idea about. It's not your fault. So we've got to have a rock solid liaison with PSE&G.
Okay.
Poles, giant utility poles went all down Pershing. Who knew? Now, I noticed in Englewood, that same type of setup was put underground. So there was some weird operation going on here. So I think that what we need to do is we need to call PSE&G, call them in here and find out what the heck is going on, because it's been a free ride for them.
I'm sorry, I can tell you, we're going to polls, and I'm not, they did have some trouble in Englewood, Englewood, and do the right rock. That's very difficult. So even though there are holes, I'm sure there are problems during.
So Old Temple and Pershing are having basically a high tension line going down their road. You know, $1 million houses, and nobody knew anything about it. And if we do have a proper communication with PSCNG, we could be proactive, and there should be regular emails communicating with the community, saying, I'm not saying this has to come from the administrator.
Okay.
I'm telling you exactly what's going on in this town, because I've heard people, they've got delays, they have to get to work, they have a detour. I don't care if I'm a few minutes late, that's the way it goes. But we have to establish a solid, rock solid communication with PSCNG. I don't know if that falls under your purview or the borough administrator. Okay.
We'll let them know.
What's going on, what they have to do. And their people, their public information people go out to the homes. And I told them that leaving a letter isn't enough because some people don't go to their front doors. And they have been personally sending people to these homes and advising people what's going to be happening. If that's not working because people are not home when they come, you know, we're trying every which way that we can, and not everybody's going to look at an email either. So I told them the letters weren't enough because I know for myself, I don't usually go to my front door. I come in through the garage or whatever. And they've tried to address that in other ways, but I haven't really had much feedback from residents that it's not working.
I just think we need to be more proactive on the communication front. With the entire community, and the community would appreciate it now, even with the leaf pickup. You know, you said there was equipment problems, nobody knew the complaints compiling in. Be proactive and say, hey, let's alert the community as to the situation. Then, you know, people are very forgiving and start to appeal to their best selves and say, look, you know, we've got equipment breakdown, and people will understand it. And say, rather than complain, we'll say, look, we let you know. So, all right. So I would like to, you know, follow on the communication.
Yes. One of the things that at night when they cover up with the plates, they need to do a little better job. I'm one axle in, so
That particular area,
yeah,
very good.
yeah.
Excuse.
It was Hudson Terrace, actually. Yeah, Hudson Terrace was really bad. Yeah, yeah.
It is, but Floyd right now is the worst.
Yeah, yeah.
This is still.
Depending what car you're driving, yeah, yeah, bad.
Problem is that even with them, if they don't get to go ahead from the DPU, they get stalled. So they start something and then the DPU is holding back. So then they can't go forward, and then so they're stuck leaving things until okay comes from the DPU, whether it's for money or detail, to go ahead with the job. And something as big as this, that's what's been happening with this. And some of these things were supposed to have happened last year. The gas work started 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And now they've just gotten another, you know, go ahead from the Board of Public Utilities, the DPU. And that's what is staggering.
I didn't know that phone poles came that long. They're very tall.
All this work that's going on is that you have closed, and it says closed road, and then it shows you a detour. You go down that detour and then that road is closed. It's been a nightmare. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we call it.
Me too. Well, and the good thing is that we do have the crosswalks now at Sills. I appreciate that.
No problem, Mayor.
I might hit you up for one more crosswalk in the next 2 weeks.
Can we invite someone of responsibility, of high responsibility from PSCNG to the next council meeting?
That you're gonna get, but they have someone who does public service and public information, and she's in charge of our area. The other gentleman who had been for many years just retired, she's relatively new, but in fact.
I got
he
people
would be
telling
the
me
person
they can't get in.
Essentially.
No,
Everybody's using this one?
yeah,
Some people call in, people not able to log on.
well, my phone, but there should be in there. What's the Zoom?
Thanks a lot, Mr. Neville. That's most easier.
Two.
Thank you.
Think positive on the snow, Mr. Neville. No snow this year, so it's salt this year, right?
I had to call a number. You had to call in.
They can't.
Okay, well, they'll figure it out. Hi, Chief, how are you? I'm Hey, thanks. Appreciate you being here. I know you had a long day. Yeah, sure. What's up?
People that can't get into the everybody's comment. So, you know, we have people, we have public that's trying to get onto the Zoom meeting, and I just want to put it on the record that they're asking for a phone number, and the mayor is just ready to move right on. So we have residents that have contacting us and saying they can't get in, looking for a phone number.
If they carefully type in all the information,
The collective-
the phone number, they have this information, if they can type. If they could type that in, they'll have a prompt to either use their audio and phone. If they won't, they could just come down here. So we'll go to their house.
Join the meeting and make more today.
You can leave. Go ahead, chief. Thank you. I'm sorry, chief.
No problem. Good evening, everybody. Update on the 911 system. The cutover was completed on November 15th at 10 a.m. That has been a seamless transition and everything seems to be working fine.
That's with the county now.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Wait,
How's that working out?
Good. Yeah, no issues. Similar to the arrangement we had with Fruit Lee. Of course, they're better staffed up at the county though, but essentially nothing has changed.
Okay.
Good news. A reimbursement grant entitled to amount of $51,675.66. That's a reimbursement for body worn cameras that we purchased in late 21 or 22. Unfortunately, with the changeover of CFOs and borough administrators, it slipped through the cracks. Like I said, it was just caught, and that check should be on its way. Administrator Stern signed the paperwork 2 days ago. The state now has it, so the check should be on its way back to us.
How big is the check?
$51,675.66.
Yeah.
It had been spent.
Yeah, that's great. That's real money.
Yeah.
That's good.
Not sure how many of you saw our Facebook post with our press release about the event that happened on December 4th. We assisted the Palisades Interstate Parkway Police in apprehending a suspect that was operating a motor vehicle on the parkway. He fled on foot, ended up actually on our school grounds, and with the assistance of the Parkway, Englewood, and Tenafly, that suspect was taken into custody without incident.
What was the initial infraction?
Stolen car.
Okay,
2 parties in a stolen car southbound on the Parkway.
that makes sense.
One of them stayed in the car, was arrested on scene. The other fled on foot
Okay,
and ended up in our back streets. So a good job by all on that.
yeah, that's great. Thank you. Awesome.
Councilman Di Gregorio, I have a bit of good news for you. With my end of year funds remaining in my budget, I was able to purchase 2 electronic speed signs. They were delivered earlier this week. They were not cheap, but I think it's money well spent. I will work with the DPW super on some posts that need to be set in the ground. Once those posts are set, we can then take those portable speed signs and move them to various
I think
locations.
they'll attach to existing speed limit posts also.
They may.
I believe.
Otherwise, we'll post some empty posts and we'll just move them around. So I know that would put a smile on your face. So.
What is our speed limit?
25.
Can you imagine? Well, it's 25 it's posted. Can you imagine? 25.
like the super said, the PSNG work is ongoing. I know Councilwoman Valari mentioned that there's a lot of detours that are almost conflicting. However, there are multiple crews in town. And they don't all necessarily coordinate with each other where they're going to be working. And that's really so that they can be in town for as little time as possible. If one crew were to be doing all of this gas main work, they'd be here for 2 years instead of, 6 months with multiple crews running simultaneously. So that's the way they choose to do business. I'd like to mention our toy drive box is in the lobby. We are collecting new unwrapped toys until December 17th, and on the 18th, those will go to the larger statewide PBA toy drive. That's all I have. Mayor, I know this is your last meeting. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
As you transition. And happy holidays to all of you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure here, and can't say enough good things about you and your team right now. So
Thank you, Mayor. Perfect.
Chief, maybe just a quick suggestion with Mark Devil here. I think I made a suggestion a while back, and maybe I'll make it next year, early next year. Do we still have Saturday person at the DPW? Why not?
It was cost efficient for what was getting done there. That's why
Well,
probably would.
I think-
There to see what people were doing if you wanted to have it opening.
I think that there would be a description of what the duties of that individual would be. And I'm just thinking, you mentioned toy drive. Up in a small town in Connecticut, Kent, Connecticut, they have a wonderful DPW where people come in and they'll drop off all kinds of stuff, including toys. They have a special little hut for toys. So in good condition. And it would seem to me that putting someone in place on Saturday would be very worthwhile to basically triage the donations or the trash. And I think that would distinguish ourselves as a community. And plus, I know by the time, especially during Christmas time, you get high winds, you're going to have boxes all the way up and down Hudson Terrace the way it used to be. So I would highly recommend, perhaps we can consider that for next year, putting a person back in on Saturday, and you have maybe one Saturday and one weekend for toys drive, one other weekend for something else, blankets or jackets and that kind of thing. And that kind of takes on what you've done with the food drive.
that's great. Yeah, so we could possibly do that.
So something for consideration to think about for my council colleagues will consider.
We can do Saturdays.
Mr. Luciano volunteered to be here on Saturdays.
Saturdays.
Anything for a good cause.
That's very nice of you. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Thanks, Chief. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Mr. Neville, Merry Christmas to you and your family also. Thank you. Ms. Stern, administrators report.
That's part, but it was just thought. All I'd like to see, and I hope you can share it because I didn't make that many copies. I didn't want to waste the ink in a copier. This was the original drawing that we got at a committee meeting back at the end of October, which nobody liked. So you can put it down because it's already for reference. This is the one that
Nobody liked.
the committee. The people who were on the mentioned many times that they didn't like, if you look on the next page, it's a little more explicit. They didn't like copy kind of clothes. They didn't like that type of thing. So we is the committee still? No. Oh, they're going back committee, but so anyhow, we thought that instead of this was prepared by Boswell at the time, and a number of people felt that for the since it's like, do this. It's nicer to come up with a better scheme, talk to some of the mothers from the PTA who have many children, who do have extra ones in the. And after a bunch of work, reviewing different things, we came out and oops. Okay. And one of the benefits of the way this one is laid out, and what the moms had suggested is that we start at a lower end, because if you look at the old one, everything is starting, and there's just a lot going on. Whereas the new one starts lower and graduates up to the higher pieces. And we played around with the colors a couple of times. They had more shades, took out some of the shades and too many shades. You now have seating area with the shade for visitors, the moms and grandparents waiting for their children on one of these. You can see this. So we are ready. We go to bid this with these new colors. The one thing that isn't correct, which I think I sent to you all in an email today, with the swings, we will not have even the rubber base under the swings. It is not cost effective that does year round. The temporary mats that we do provide also wear out. So where the swings are, will be mowed, right?
Looks good. When is all gonna get done?
Well, we can. Boswell is ready to go forward once we agree that we're going with this equipment.
Right.
Which I think we should. It has everything that you want in a playground. And what I understand, last time I spoke to the manufacturer, they're running about eight weeks for this product.
Okay.
We should be able to go to bid. If I remember correctly, I was told in another few weeks or next month. Right. Spark should be open April, maybe May.
Okay.
So for the transition to going into the project at Whitty Field, the Spark will be open for everyone when that one closes and you can't use that playground. Also, I mentioned in the email, last time Kevin Boswell was here, we discussed the bifurcation. Just wanted to confirm that that's the way we're going, so we can go ahead with this. Unless somebody has some objection, we will do Veterans Park first.
What was the original reason for the bifurcation? Is that so we can have conversations with Mr. Theodorakis, if I pronounce his name, that he was requesting that we not disrupt the Liberty Field in the spring, that he would prefer that we wait until after the completion of the Little League season.
Yes, absolutely.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
It was,
I'm sorry.
because I know that somebody about why it was being delayed, but we were actually accommodating the man in charge of the Little League that asked us to postpone it and bifurcate it. So in case anybody still has issues of why it's being delayed.
Then after this, just a couple of items that you should be aware of. In 2021, the phone system in the admin building was replaced. At the time, there wasn't much information gathering, so there were many issues with the various phone lines. One of the issues affected our 911 service. So in July of 2023, when our 911 had been down close to a year at that point, I was told that Verizon was causing the problem. And I was able to work with a friend and government contact at Verizon, and we got the problem fixed. The only problem was that wasn't what was causing the problem. The problem was with our 911 vendor, who, as you know, you terminated that contract. Unfortunately, they were paid a third of the money upfront. We've never been able to figure out why they were paid when nothing was done. 2 labor contracts expired at the end of 2022. The United Service Workers Union, which represents 6 of our employees, now 5, 1 left. And the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, who represent the DPW. The borough has now approved both those contracts, hopefully as of tonight, the second one. In both cases, there had never been any contact with the negotiating parties prior to me being able to reach out to them. One of the issues now is that with a 4-year contract, we have 3 years left with both of them because 2023 is basically over. The borough had received a senior center COVID improvement grant from Bergen County Community Development. As of June 2023, nothing had been done to complete the grant. The town would have lost this opportunity, just like the various others that it lost in the last few years from community development. Bergen County gave me permission to proceed with the work. And as of today, the touchless light switches are installed, the air filter has been installed, the new front doors have been installed, but the plumbing fixtures, opposed to what I wrote here, are not installed yet. They'll be installed at the end of the week. There was a delay with the contractor. The front doors look beautiful. They're not working yet because the electrician will make them active on Friday. The borough is currently applying for the 2024 Bergen County Community Development Grant for site and infrastructure improvements at the senior center, which you have a resolution for tonight, a supporting resolution. Engel Plus, as you know, is not eligible for many of the CDBG money other than for senior related purposes. And we will be replacing all the concrete surfaces to make them safer and to code. We are replacing the block glass windows with windows that can open and provide some fresh air. The front sidewalk will be replaced along with the railing that is substandard. The amount of that grant that I'm applying for is $315,000. CDBG money has grown in the last number of years, so it's unlikely that we'll get all of it. But I hope that we get enough that we can at least do the site work and the windows. Some of the other things like a new shed and the new fencing that I put in the grant, hopefully the borough will pay for. Unfortunately, I don't know how many of you are aware of this, there has been an unusually high incidence of cancer diagnosis and illness with retired members of our police department. We currently have many young police officers, and the chief had expressed that they were concerned about those conditions. And you may or may not remember that there was a bid to go out to do the renovations in the locker room and the bathrooms. The bid did not go through because the winning bidder did not provide for asbestos removal. So that said, we did a number of air quality tests of various types. I was able to get a report on the asbestos that Colliers had done. So we had that. We don't have to pay for new one. We have that copy. And now that the men feel a little bit more assured, we're going to go out to bid for those renovations. We also, I'm not sure how many of you remember, you had bought new lockers for the locker room, and they're currently being stored because of the delay in the new renovations.
My 2 cents. So what I was saying is, if there's asbestos, it's always going to be a problem, and we know there is. Take 800 Sylvan by eminent domain,
Yeah.
create a new municipal complex up there, and let them build housing down here. But the police department needs a better facility. Borough Hall, that building's a disaster. Having been in there.
Things I was gonna mention.
Right, I'm reading from up here, upside down. And, you know, the state of New Jersey will understand. I promise you. And Judge Farrington will as well.
That is the resident, it's some of the things that happen, never happen, but
Create an open space up there,
yes,
park.
yes.
That's what we need. We need parks.
We need parks, that's true. So going forward, the borough needs in this upcoming year to approve substantial expenses in capital improvements. As soon as possible in the new year, you need to do a road, new and old, a road improvement bond. We have a project for $1 million, $1.1 million for various roads that's been completed. There was no money to pay the contractor. Though the resolution stated that there were funds in place, that wasn't the case. And out of the $1.1 million, we did have $400,000 left in an old bond. So we were able to give them that money, but they've done this work. Punch list is just about completed, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think there's much left on the punch list.
There's some work left.
Certainly not $600,000 worth. So also, the DOT did give us a grant to improve part of Floyd Street. So obviously that should be combined with the money that we need to pay this contractor for a road improvement fund. The borough also needs to provide the police department with at least 2 police cars. We have a number of old vehicles costing the borough a lot of money for repairs. And frankly, I think all of you know, it doesn't pay to keep putting good money after bad, fixing old cars. The chief has prepared a list of all his vehicles with the mileage and what it's been costing us per vehicle, which I think the finance committee needs to deal with in the upcoming year. There was some discussion about getting a new vacuum truck, because we don't have one at the DPW, but there may be other equipment. So I think it's something going forward that you need to think about whether we get another truck or any other equipment that DPW needs. There are a number of repairs to the administration building. Both lighting and the HVAC should be improved to become more energy efficient, hopefully with LED lighting. So I think that these are things that I'm sure you do know something about, wanting more information, I'm happy to share, but the finance committee going forward needs to address these bond ordinances.
Let's just give clarification on something for myself and everybody else. Did you say that council is given information that we had money, once we're certified, that we had money to pay for something, and we truly didn't have money to pay for something?
Apparently that's the case.
That's, okay, thank you.
Which streets?
Johnson, Allison, part of Van Wagner. It was the last road improvement program that we did with the co-op.
And who's responsible for communicating with the co?
Well, I wasn't here when it was done, so, but the co-op is not the one that has to certify about the funds. Certifies about this. Co-op has nothing to do with our finances.
That was done by your administrator.
I don't know who the administrator, I don't know which administrators, but was it that way? I have no idea.
Certifies it or is it?
They should look at it with this.
With their license.
Right.
So who made the mistake?
Who's certified?
There has to be some record.
But that co-op
I understand.
is done, I wasn't here, so I can't answer who was looking at it and who was responsible. There were a number of changes in the last year and a half, 2 years. I don't know.
Oh, we've been talking about 20 years, we're talking about the last 2 years, so I am not saying it was your responsibility. What I'm saying is that the should be some trail that tells you. Said that the funds and
It's getting that contract paid, you can deal with the rest of it at another time.
I'd like to understand more about how this co-op works, how the borough engineer figures into it, how the council figures into it. It seems like, for me, this is something I need to learn.
Well, this is, we made the co-op again. I mean, I've done many road programs that just we work with our own engineer and borough council. I didn't do it through a co-op, we do it through a bidding process. Some towns like to do things through the co-op because they feel you have a larger audience, you have more people to divide, and you know, they maybe get a better price because you're giving them more work. So $1 for the asphalt, for this, for that, because right, there's more quantities involved.
Just be recognized.
This is-
Councilman, I believe you were here during the process. We formulated a road improvement program. We submitted it to the co-op because we're a member of the Riverside Co-op, which they supposedly get us the cheapest amount, the lowest bid for improvements of our roads. So once that's done, which I believe you were here with Jerry, when we submitted the roads that needed to be done, it's formulated by the DPW and the engineer. They tell us what's the best roads or the worst roads that need to be done. And we go out to Riverside Cooperative. Riverside Cooperative comes back and says, oh, you know, anything is going to do all those roads for $1 million. Then it goes to our CFO, and our CFO says, oh, you know what? We have the funds, just like everything that we sign here. Every single night when they say, you know what, anyone who don't have it, we pull a resolution out of our ear and we say, oh, we got pending certification of the funds. So the person, Ms. Valari, the person that certifies the funds is the CFO. I don't know right now which one it was exactly, but the CFO certifies it. That's why I wanted to be clear, because it has nothing to do with the Riverside Cooperative, it has nothing to do with the engineer, it has nothing to do with the administrator. The person, just like, no, if we say we're gonna pay bills, if the CFO certifies we have funds to pay them and we don't, that's the CFO. That's the bottom line.
How many CFOs have we had in the past 2 years? 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, in 2 years, it could be that many.
Well, they would.
Okay, so then you don't know.
So,
Yeah. That subject, I just want to give a shout out to Sue. Thank you. You've done a great job as our CFO. I know we're late to the party here, but yes, go ahead.
Ideally, when, as Councilman Luciano pointed out, when the roads are selected, the administration is involved, the mayor and council and the road administrator. A cost estimate is requested. I've never seen a cost estimate. Once the cost estimate is determined, then it comes to the CFO, whether we have a bond ordinance in place or do we need to do a bond ordinance. I haven't had that conversation with anybody, whether it was the administrator or any of the council members. When the resolution, when that bond ordinance in place and you award that contract, whether it's through directly to the contractor or through a co-op, yes, a resolution has a section called certification of funds. I have not signed that resolution with certification of funds. Had it come to me before that, I would have raised the issue that there is no money available. So if we had been at the end of the we could have done a bond ordinance. I raised the issue back when the bill was initially submitted. We started when it was around when those roads were selected to the co-op program. I proposed we do a bond ordinance at the November meeting, so we still had 2 meetings, so at least get it done. Yes, it would have been after the fact, but at least it would have been done, and we would be sitting here with the contract of $600,000. I was told it's too late to do a bond ordinance by the bill administrator.
That we had notice. I did on that said certification of funds were good, that you never.
I don't think Church is going to find my signature on that resolution, so
I'm asking about this. Thank you, bill list. Right? So when that came up on the bill list, you're telling us that you, just because you didn't sign the certification.
I personally resolution.
So
That means that I've looked at each one of those items.
you're
I
saying,
haven't necessarily looked at the resolution or the contract for the road improvement program.
I asked him what happened.
something.
It doesn't matter.
6 times.
Not.
It's our responsibility. Not, I mean,
I understand.
it's our fault to a certain extent, but all I'm gonna say is be fine, who's certified, I don't care.
Ideally, as a good,
I don't care if you signed it, I don't care if you never saw it. I wanna find out who told us that it was the right to go forward with it, and now after everything's done, we don't have to pay it. That's something we're gonna have to deal with next year, because once again, now we're $600,000 behind the 8 ball before we even start the budget process. And that's just.
but it doesn't really affect your budget because it's a capital project, but the point I'm trying to make is, this. We had an opportunity to fix, okay, we didn't do the in April and May, we could have done it in November and December. I didn't like to do it. That's all I'm gonna say.
We have to make sure.
Thank you.
First of all, you're gonna go to bond council, you have to have it written up, you have to have it come here and be introduced, you have to get a certain amount of legal requirement days before it's done, and you have to finish it before you do
I
reorganization.
have years of experience in the CFO, I am aware of the process.
I'm not.
Tell you is that,
Let him finish. He was speaking.
No, finish. Show me.
You finish. You never finish. Finish. Be kind.
Stand the process. It's what you're in the process. So I get it. It's not an issue just for, it's related to all of us. Okay, it might not even be your issue. You might have said to someone, you know what, we don't have to know. I don't know that sitting here right now. So I'm not just pointing it at you. I'm pointing it at all of us.
I get it.
Okay, because there's a breakdown somewhere that is not right.
Okay.
Okay, that's the bottom line.
Let him finish.
Okay, now we can finish.
So just to go back, when initially we received the payment recommendation from the engineers, the first question I raised was, is it tied to a DOT grant? Because that's a simple thing in chapter 159. But obviously it was not, it had nothing to do with DOT grants. My initial recommendation was, let's get the bond ordinance done. So we had November and December, 2 meetings to get the bond ordinance done. Okay, whoever made the mistake, whether it was the clerk, the CFO, which administrator, let's put that behind us and try to fix it. But I was not allowed to do that. That's what I want to make it clear.
One thing to take exception with is that you aren't allowed to fix it because of what I'm just explaining, that the mayor wanted to interrupt me with, is that, as you know, with the process, it has to be done before the year. That was the only reason why, because you know what? I didn't want to spend money for a bond council to put forth an ordinance that costs money to find out that we don't get it done by the end of the year. And then you know what? As 20 years experience, we got to do it all over again and pay for it all. Yeah.
No, the bond ordinance takes 2 meetings. November and December gave you enough meeting. The bond council cost no more than $600 to $1,000. Issuing the bonds, you want issuing the bond? I could draft the bond ordinance. I draft the bond ordinance with CFOs.
Make it seem like it's nothing.
It's cost of doing business. It's cost of running a business.
I stand, with what I said earlier, I think you do a very good job. A question for you.
Yes.
In a form of government, and in 8 years of seeing this, it's quite dysfunctional because employees are not protected to do their jobs because everything's always changing. Professionals are always changing. I don't know if you're working in other forms of government. I'd be curious to know more about what works and what doesn't work. I can tell you what doesn't work. This doesn't work because, you know, you have people who won't do their jobs and blame others. And then you have people getting fired along the way and replaced, and there's no transition because they just got fired, right? So, so taxpayers, so taxpayers ultimately lose, right? Because there's no continuity. If you're running a business, as you said, you wouldn't run a business like this. You wouldn't run your household like this. But for some reason, we run our government like this, and it's not good. It's just not good.
Who has his hand up?
Has his hand up.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Tim, 1 second. Did you want to comment? Yeah, I had a question, I'm sorry.
But you asked me a question about continuity, and I come from a town where we had a very stable government, and I'm not used to professionals being changed every year. That's all I'm going to say.
In a nutshell. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Said that you weren't allowed to. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? What does that mean? Would it not? How were you not allowed? Was there a part of the process that?
Should answer that.
Yeah, please.
Because I spoke to our auditor. And the auditor, under the circumstances, said you should wait because you've got to do all the other bond ordinances. And you might have had to have a special meeting. And it's difficult enough to get a regular meeting, even though there were 1 or 2 special meetings called. And it was his suggestion that we not do it now and have to possibly get it in with a special meeting in December. And so I went with what the auditor said, and I spoke to the contractor, as did Boswell. And the contractor said, thank you very much for the $400,000. There are a lot of people who owe us money. As long as we get it early next year, we're fine. Thank you.
And just a follow-up, what is your take on that recommendation as a professional?
Well, my recommendation at the time was that a cleaner approach would have been do a bond ordinance. We have a cost estimate. We have a contract awarded. You know exactly how much you're looking to do a bond ordinance for. You have at least a November regular meeting, a December regular meeting, and need be a special at the end of the year meeting. So between the 3 meetings, I think we had more than enough of an opportunity to get this bond ordinance adopted. So at least we would be taking this matter into the new year. That was my recommendation. And I think I made it clear to Ms. Stern.
Okay. How is it communicated to the residents which roads are going to be paved? Obviously, I know them far in advance. How do we communicate that? Or it seems like we're not really communicating that to the community, are we?
Yes.
Yeah.
It goes back to the beginning.
Notices go on. You're talking the Riverside Co-op program. There's about 6 or 7 towns that are part of it. I believe it's Haworth that is the lead agency for that. They're prepares it. I believe that it's Northfield. Thank you. Englewood Cliffs, I believe, had the largest contract dollar amount of road work. In that side of all of them. When the work goes on, Boswell was involved in the of it, not any of the roadway selection. And notices go on the contractor and from Boswell on it.
So
I have a question. So why wasn't all this communicated to the council? So that, I mean, I don't, I'm not saying that you did it, I'm not accusing anybody, but don't you think we should have known this? I mean, we're standing here trying to figure out where the ball was dropped, and we have no information, not from you, not from you, not from Mr. Bansley.
Sitting, this was originally done with the co-op. Those are the people who knew about it and were part of it. As far as letting you know now, there was no benefit to letting you know now. The only one who was at,
I think that a plan.
well, that was his plan. And I'm not gonna go, I'm not gonna,
But the thing is, this gentleman had a plan, and I think the with council members should have been advised of your. And decision.
Before we go, I just wanted to make, just ask another question, please. From what I understand, $2 million, approximately $2 million are falling off the bonds this year. Am I mistaken?
I don't remember, but the debt service does, drop off and then you
It's
have.
dropping off, I think, approximately $2 million. So it would have made more sense to add that debt service this year because.
Not necessarily. So basically, when you bond ordinance, you're authorizing an appropriation.
Right.
You're not necessarily going out and borrowing the money. The actual debt service kicks in when you issue those bonds from those authorizations. So usually with those like this, you probably do a bond sale every 6 to 8 years or 5 to 6 years max. So depending on when you issued your bonds last is when you would factor that in.
just so to follow up, when Shoaib and I spoke about this, we have enough money to do bonds for the down payment. So it's not an issue. Whenever we start it, it'll get done because we do have the down payment funds in our budget. And it's not going to be an issue.
The only input that I can give is from my experience, at least in the past 3 years here, if you have an opportunity to do something, you're better off just doing it. And instead of just kicking the can down the road, because it's just,
This was a matter of combining what going forward is needed for a road improvement program. So it's put together because we have Floyd coming up. Normally, in other towns, and I don't know how the roads were done here, but normally in most towns, either the administrator sits with the DPW superintendent and the town engineer, and you look at which streets need the work the most. I don't know how those streets were chosen. Because I have no background with it. I don't know. Bernie doesn't know because he wasn't here when they did this co-op. I'm assuming that there was a list usually kept by the superintendent of the DPW of the roads that are the worst. And you deal with them as you can, whether you get a grant, whether you put a bond ordinance together, and that's it. But there was no need because we dealt with the contractor. There was no need to do this immediately when we have next year's road improvement already in the works because we got the DOT grant money for Floyd Street, which was the next street, again, chosen by others previously. It was already chosen when I got here. So for me, in good planning, you combine things that you don't do it twice. And that's the way we went forward with this at the advice of our auditor. And even though Shoaib thought that we should do it a different way, with all due respect, that was his thought, but
So
not the majority.
you mentioned Floyd Street. PSC&G is doing work on Floyd
Yes.
Street. PSC&G should then be paving.
Paving their portion of it. We have a grant for that, but it's only for a very small portion of it. So, and we're waiting for a proposal from Boswell to tell us how much that's going to be. In other words, how much of the 180.
So the Floyd Street, the NJDOT grant for municipal aid fiscal year 2023 was approximately 157 was the award to the borough. We put in a phase 2 of that for the fiscal year 24 municipal aid. And the grant approval, which was just announced in November, was about $187,000. So we're preparing a proposal. Now, to answer your question, Councilman, PSC&G years ago, when I was working with them in other towns, we would have them pave curb to curb. Their position now is that they pave center line of road to the curb where they do the trench work on it. So talking to the DPW superintendent, his policy has been what I call horse trading back and forth. So that's a meeting that will be had to divvy up the road so they could pave a road curb to curb. But the grants there for DOT are for Floyd Street. So whatever other roads that the town, the mayor and council would be selecting would work out, and then we would go out to a road program. I'm not sure if the borough wants to proceed with another Riverside co-op, but that's up to you.
Are there any maps online where you have this all laid out? It would seem to me that would be a visual help, and that actually the
street map that Cliffs had. And God bless. I would imagine that the DPW has kept track of those roads over the years, and just their knowledge. They're driving around doing recycling, garbage, leaf pickup, snow plowing. They know which ones are there, and they usually prioritize which ones are the worst. Some towns use a scale 0 to 10. Some use a scale 1 to 5. I'm not sure what Englewood Cliffs has, but there is always a list. And Floyd Street was put in, and that was put in 2022 for Floyd Street. And then we'd start over at the Palisades and work your way north. And then the mayor and council would decide, as we do in all towns, you have the grant money. Is it partially funded by the borough to add additional lengths of it? So that's all to be worked out.
Is it lawful to issue a future bond for past work?
Mayor, I don't know. Have you had to check with bond counsel?
Yeah, I think we should check that.
It's called pyramid bond scheme. It's like Egypt issuing bonds now to pay pyramids. They've built thousands of years. It's generally appreciated.
Right.
But I mean, it doesn't matter though, even if we wanted to do a bond in November or December, it would have been.
If you pursuant to an existing contract and you've encumbered expenses that you now have to finance, that's different. But if you're just talking about bonding today for something that you should have bonded and arranged months and months or years ago, generally no. But I would defer to your distinct bond attorney.
Yeah, there's some nuances to it, New Jersey municipal bond law about, typically you have to only bond for capital expenses, but there also are some limited exceptions where you can bond for things that aren't capital expenses. Whether this fits into one of those exception categories, I don't know. I have to look at bond counsel, but the expert.
Okay.
But it could be an issue.
Thank you, Mr. Geiger. We're happy to have you here. Yes, you did. I saw it. You didn't tell Karen?
Bond counsel?
No, you guys don't know I'm part of this town. My firm finally have provided these services years ago. I've worked with
You think so?
but what?
That's what, Hersfeld Rubin? Hersfeld Rubin? What firm was that? What was your firm? Yeah.
Retired.
No, what was your firm?
Hawkins.
Hawkins Delafield, that's right, yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry we had to stand. Do you have any other questions? So if you have these issues, just broadcast it to the governing body so that they don't have excuses.
And just a comment, going back to one of your comments that, we want to do a multi-year or, comprehensive capital program. In my experience, and again, it's my experience may not be, applicable here, but usually when you have Like, for example, a recreation comes to you for a $25,000 capital improvement request. Police comes to you for a $50,000 capital improvement request. You don't want to be doing bond ordinance every meeting before 25,000, 50,000. But this road improvement program, in my opinion, qualified that bond ordinance on its own. It was close to $1 million. You had all the streets laid out, you had all the description that you needed for the bond ordinance, you had the down payment, more than enough down payment available in the budget. And so there was no reason why we didn't do this back in November and adopted it tonight. And that's exactly why, that's why,
Even if I should broadcast it, I'm saying for the chain of command.
but I was told that I reported to the administrator,
Okay,
and that's what I did.
fair enough, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks so much. Take care, happy holidays.
That's it.
Okay, that was in the middle of your report. Ms. Stern, you done? Okay, all right,
Thank you.
Could we have a copy of, yeah, thank you.
all right.
Thank you.
So can I ask a couple of questions about this playground plan?
Thank you.
This just seems to be like a. This drawing is not really custom to our application, is it? This is not an exact, this does not look like, was this supposed to be? So this supposed to be Woody Fields or?
That's that.
Does it say right?
That's the one down at the southwest.
No, but there's no, there's a house back here. There's, I want a bit as realistic a drawing as possible.
I built.
If we're paying Boswell big money, $300 and something thousand, I expect to see virtual reality and show the public. This I could just download a copy off the internet.
Because we put it together.
Well,
We put together.
I don't see it being realistic. I don't see it. I see it as being thrown together. You can make a joke out of it, that's fine. I was the best. So for the young people in town. I don't like half. I'll use that word. And I think this is half baked, and I could have done this myself. Job.
Built rendering. So.
So my question is about this is this the actual equipment that you're buying? Is it these cones? Is it this comfort?
I showed you the other one, which nobody liked, with the blue rubber and all the yellow and the red and the blue and the green.
Right.
Many people, particularly the neighbors, didn't like. Don't have to mention names, we will visit the park. So these are the ones that we picked after 2 or 3 renditions that were the most earthy and the most Englewood Cliffs-like. So they wouldn't stand out like a sore thumb, they would blend into the environment.
Right, and so this is drawn according to actual size of the piece of property? I don't think so, because it doesn't look,
Well,
this looks way bigger than what that actual space is.
There's no fence around it. There's no,
It's game time. It's from game time.
that's all.
So it's an actual.
this is the way. Boswell already had the topo and everything. They fit the equipment into the spot. We don't. That's what the engineers do. We pick the equipment that we like and they fit it where it belongs according to the property.
So I thought there was gonna be wood chips underneath the swings. There's rubber here, so this is not. Yes, but it certainly does not.
Game time, the manufacturer, the vendor.
So are we paying Boswell $350,000 so game time can give us this? I don't like that.
No,
I think, I'm sorry, I'm just angry. I think the town deserves a lot better. I think, as I said in the beginning, Boswell has been half-assed half-assed from the beginning to the end, and I'm extremely disappointed in Boswell. I'm extremely disappointed in the rendering, in the specs, in everything. This town deserves better.
Much longer.
And the roads are being done, and the smoke testing reports, where are they? And the drainage, the cameras for that. A second-class citizen here, we're paying very good money to Boswell, and what are we getting? No reports. No reports whatsoever. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The DPW and all those items that you had brought up. We have specs and plans that are ready.
Well, just add, Mr. What we can do here, because this will go on forever, is can you just do a proper the topography and the. Yeah, so the rendering as well, so that the council can see that.
So it's one thing after another. Smoke testing, there's supposed to be cameras in the pipes, there's supposed to be all of this thing. Nothing, this has been 10 months now.
So the statement was done.
Zero.
So what's the status of the smoke testing?
It's finished in August.
So when they.
Yes, the smoke testing is continued. The work is almost complete. Sylvan Avenue, you need a special permit from DOT to work on that. It's been submitted. That hasn't been received yet. The DPW superintendent is working towards that getting done. I've been working with him. There's about at least 6 to 10 manholes that are buried that were. I approached the DPW on how they want to address doing that, so the testing can be done.
Okay. Thank you.
Barney, can you explain what being buried means?
They were paved over.
You can't see, they're either paved over or dirted over, and depends upon where the areas are. So if you drive through the roads, you'll see manhole covers. We have several on the maps that they can't locate. So those are items that we want to expose. We want to have them raised to the proper elevation that they should be at. So you have access to it for any maintenance remediation work, and that's part of the process that needs to be done to complete the smoke testing.
Does burying them cause any issues in terms of issues?
Access.
No, it's accessibility and maintenance issues.
So you were saying.
It's okay. It's okay. May I ask a question? Sorry, Mr. Kevin. Thank you, Administrator Stern. I appreciate all the hard work. I know the children of Cliffs will be really benefited this project. I just have a real question. Do you see age range of business?
So they're posted, each sign, each equipment, that smaller one. The larger one obviously is the more adult and the ADA accessible because it starts at the lower end. And then the separate piece, which is this one, is the one that is for the younger children.
And I thank you so much for also taking the time to request input from the parents of Englewood Cliffs. Well, definitely, I thank you for all the work you've done. So, yeah.
Some input.
We're supposed to come tonight, some of my PTA moms, but unfortunately, I guess there was something going on and.
There was a park committee, and the park committee that did work on this has a lot of expertise. And nothing against the PTA moms, but I think that some sort of inclusionary, I mean, to pick out a couple of PTA moms. It's nice that they want to bring in their time, but this should be more formalized into some sort of committee where we have formal input. No, I mean, I don't know who the PTA moms are. I thank them for their time, but at the same time, we did have a committee. We could have reinstated the committee and maybe added these two people, these two individuals, because now if we get complaints, we're going to say, well, who are the PTA moms that were involved in this? We don't have names. We should.
Soon as.
We,
If they have these stories, then I'll be putting moms and dads.
oh, moms and dads. I don't belong to moms and dads anymore. Thank you very much. I think that what needs to be done is that the town needs to communicate better with the public. We can't depend on moms and dads. We have to have a regular communication. Thank you.
At that time.
Why don't you do this? Why don't you pick 5, 6-year-olds to let them do this, because this is taking the adults way too long. Because kids know what they want to play. So easy.
Just have a question. So the people who prepared these, what are they called? What did you say? Playtime. So Playtime is the actual.
The people who supply this.
So they did this. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's how it works. You go to a vendor and you ask, in this case, they were the vendor that you went with. Sometimes you can go to more than one. They pretty much all have the same kind of equipment. We knew what we wanted to see as far as the age groups and everything. And so
I understand. It's from this vendor?
this is, it's not from, I mean, the price won't be that. That's from the estimate that Boswell originally did for this equipment. I don't have that number in the top of my head. If it's specs on this, when this goes out, we'll see what comes in.
What do we
Price.
accomplish?
Well, most of this is on state contract. All the equipment is on state.
I want to set the record for August meeting. They're not talking about this. What are we trying to accomplish on this topic tonight?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Oh, stop.
You know, it would be nice.
It's not embarrassment. To asking a question is not a harassment.
Okay, so
Sorry.
That's really. So I think before you put it out to bid, I think the council needs to be on board.
Absolutely.
So
I visited the municipal league, and I got about that much information on his playground equipment. Game time is fine, but it's not optimal as far as I can see. And there are other Scandinavian companies that and European companies that look like they produce something much higher quality. And I think that the discussion is warranted as to what we're going to pick. Frankly, it's probably the easiest for an engineer to pick game time or play time or whatever it is, because they're in every other park in New Jersey. Why do we have to be like every other park in New Jersey? We should be unique. We should have something that's just maybe a little bit different. And I'll tell you what, will stand out. And I believe what I've seen the work of Boswell, it's all rubber stamp, a lot of plastic, a lot of fields, and it's
a policy decision. Kevin Vogel made the presentation here at the November meeting. He supplied, as he said he would, on November 10th, a letter to the mayor council that outlined all of that work. Whoever you want to use for the playground equipment, there was discussion about it being part of a contract, state contract type purchase. However you want to proceed with it, you're throwing a lot of doors that I think are unwarranted.
okay. Well,
I agree.
Well, I wish you all a fun park. Yes, let's move it on. We'll just share what you have, get a proper specs, and you still have hours.
They're domestic builders and they're on state contract, and I'll be glad to bring in and put in the administration building a stack of information.
Because there are designs out there. If you look at some of the Scandinavian parts.
Kids are going.
Maybe you could find. Maybe you could find.
It's.
Practical. It looked good too.
So like the kids like to play on, that's the purpose of doing it for.
I think we
Not
have a session.
one thing.
So anyway. Again, it's a here and it's view matters, and so I understand that. He doesn't do that, and I don't feel the way, and he said we should leave it to a couple of parents and their children, and this is a big time.
Enough of the feelings, let's just come up some ideas from some of the companies, which probably be expensive, but they'll probably look better. So let's approve some minutes, November 8th, 2023, and December 1st, 2023, special meeting to approve those. Stop it, motion to approve the 2023 regular meeting.
Second.
Favor? Should have asked if there's discussion, but that's impossible. So you actually discuss this. Okay, we have, thank you. Okay, that'll pass, that'll pass. Yeah, okay. December 1st, 2023, special meeting. And a very special meeting it was. There's a motion to table, there's a second, all in favor of tabling. Call please, so let's do the roll call. Is there any discussion on table? Call up.
If you're gonna.
Say.
Member Valari?
No.
Member Katrubis? Member Kim?
Yes.
Council President Luciano?
Yes.
Member Simon?
Yes.
Member Di Gregorio?
Yeah, no, let's get it done. I'm not saying that I've written this, I'm just saying I don't want to table. Like, can we call to, let's have a discussion, please.
At 1:05 in the afternoon on Friday, the only meeting that I usually miss. 1:05 in the afternoon, I'm at work. Get an email that I discovered hours later that we're having an emergency meeting in an hour and 10 minutes. Maybe I don't think it's an emergency meeting. I think we knew about the lawsuit, we knew about the motion to enforce litigants' rights. We knew about it, and we wheeled it. There was no reason for it, but I just wanted everybody, that's
Special. Should have been there.
you know, so it is for an emergency meeting that, in my opinion, was an emergency meeting. Regardless of whether it's an emergency meeting or not, but to give the council members 1 hour notice for anything to have a meeting in an hour and 10 minutes is just ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I stand corrected. It should have been referred to as an emergency meeting. I don't think that changes anything, but okay. So Mr. Luciano has discussed it. Anybody else want to discuss? Okay, let's have a roll call. This is to approve.
Member Valari? Still not to approve.
Not to approve.
How many times?
So the chair, keep it to yourself. Yes. Yes.
Member Katrubis?
Yes.
Member Kim?
No.
Council President Luciano?
No.
Member Simon?
No.
Member Di Gregorio?
Yes.
Mr. Tai?
Well, you do get to vote on.
There's no twice tonight. That doesn't happen often, yes.
Yeah, I can vote for Jordan.
Okay, then I should abstain, you're correct, that's true. May I please correct my vote to an abstention since I wasn't said that.
In which case, I don't have, you just, it's not we can vote, right?
That's exactly what.
All right, Yes, I think so. Again. You should say again, you lost your mind again. It's right. Right, yeah. Right. Keep looking. You know what they say, Nemo Doc Line non habet. You can't give what you don't have. You can't find what you don't have either. I invited her here tonight, but she's not here.
Yes, she told me.
All right, let's move on, please.
You in a rush?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm with you. Public comment. Can I have a motion to open to the public?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, so if there's anyone from the public who wishes to be heard, please raise your hand. State your name after I recognize you and your address. Mr. Geiger, your hand is up. I should know your address by now, but I forgot it.
70.
Yeah, come on in. It's fine. Just don't throw anything.
Thank you. My name is Martin Geiger, address 270 Alfred Street. For some of the comments that the board administrator made and want some clarification. Say that with respect to this improvement, to pay part of the cost, they had to take some unexpended bond proceeds from the prior year's road bond. So that could I hear correctly?
Yes, that's exactly right.
And I don't know who authorizes did it without council approval to transfer capital funds that were for one purpose and transfer them for another purpose.
Same purpose.
I know it's the same purpose, but it's a different, it's calling to the same purpose, but the thing is the same. Did bond council approve that? Did you speak to the bond attorney? Was that in New York? You can't do that. Maybe in New Jersey you can do that. You can't do it without a cap, but in any event, it should have, I believe it needed council approval. You know, to transfer unexpended bond money from one road project to a success and that's a different road project. And it's worth checking into, so it doesn't, if it's wrong, it shouldn't happen a second time. I also just want to mention about this order there. This is the same order who said that the bank should never have a tax reduction. Am I correct? Forget that. Forget that. So, but the order suggests this, the order suggests that. So the order seems to have a lot of input about what seems to be should be legal issues or legislative issues. You know, I know of and have worked with, can find themselves auditing numbers and auditing books at the end of the year, not consulting on legal and policy issues all year long, but maybe it's different in New Jersey.
A lot different in New Jersey.
A lot different in New Jersey. Get to the schedule for this.
Practice in New York.
Improvement. So that a couple of things. The manufacturer is game time. But to quote the prices for the equipment that you've selected, and you're going to have the bidders do that. But don't the equipment would be paid, that the charge for the equipment is from game time, aren't they?
Find what I said.
Okay.
What's appropriate to tell you.
Okay.
Fact that there was an estimate for this equipment that Boswell gave for their original rendering, which I had passed out. I don't have that number with me, but whatever that number was their estimate for that equipment. When we changed some of that equipment, and I mentioned it to the vendor for the equipment, he said some of this, because I don't know if we changed a piece or we took a piece out. This is going to be less money than the other one. I don't have the exact number.
Okay. My question is, doesn't the vendor have a price list of all the equipment that he manufactures?
Yes.
Okay, so what is it actually, so what are you actually bidding then?
The job, because it has to be installed.
So the
Installation.
Okay.
is separate from-
so different things will show will add to the cost of the equipment, the price of position equipment, setting it out, and so forth, those related ancillary costs above and beyond the actual equipment. All right, thank you for clarifying that. And of course, game time is one of many vendors, as Mr. Egan was suggesting. This is similar equipment manufactured, as he was saying, by other vendors. it might be worthwhile checking to see if you can get similar things or better things for the same price. I also heard you say that, let me clarify, I can't see too well. Oh, for the schedule. You're hopeful of bidding the equipment like next month?
Entire area, not just this. It's the whole Veterans Park that they're preparing the bids and the specs for.
So I think we're bifurcating it.
That's Woody Field, to Woody Field, if I can.
Oh, that's not bifurcating. It's hard separate. I understand. So when do you expect to, when will the council see the bid specifications? Next few weeks could take us into January. Yes,
Yeah.
I just mentioned in passing that 6 months, it's June 28th is when the Parks Committee presented the plan. And I'm sure in the committee's view, the plan was essentially grass fields to replace grass fields. And it's in August, September, October, when Mr. Ken Boswell was here, which in November or October, he spoke about 2 weeks, that there'd be big documents by the end of. It just seems that project keeps going, the documentation preparation seems to be taking longer than estimated at various times in the last few months. If it as a late is what it is, I guess. But to the schedule. What's the plan for bidding out the project next month?
Reading the presentation that you had indicated, Kevin Boswell said that he would get out by the end of the week a letter to the mayor and council that went through the specifics of it and asked for a decision as alternate prices and alternate schedules were being discussed with the recreation, the Lulu and so forth, Kevin Boswell is still awaiting that decision from the mayor and council. Was that a response in that letter?
Is the mayor, are you able to, are you going to respond to that? You're going to, when you're going to respond to that request?
I will make a request.
Inside.
Request.
You said the council sent decision from the council.
Kevin, we can't get a meeting and said, how do we want to proceed? Because he can't move forward until we give him direction. Never give him direction, so you wonder how things get held up.
Did you give him direction?
Did you give him direction?
Did you give him
Why was
direction?
he giving direction? Council person. Council.
Okay, all right. To hear this.
To the chairman, you're head of the agenda committee, yes. On the agenda tonight as a resolution, the discussion. Agenda committee, I'm not there, I don't know. Yes. Yes, yes. Yes,
Stop the way.
but you see, I got it, but you seem to be aware of it. So when you plan to give Boswell the answer to their question? It's a council decision, it's not the mayor's decision.
Decision where things don't work out.
It's on the fault of the.
Something off the agenda.
No, since you sure about,
Resident question, discuss question. Stick it for you. There's a fine stick in the for you.
Thank you. I didn't see the schedule that Mr. Boswell provided for you. But I'm told that he didn't allow any time in that time frame that he described for the adoption of a bond ordinance, which, as takes two of the reading and so forth. And I don't believe you can award any contract until you have a valid bond ordinance in place, and that could take a maximum 2 months or slightly less.
So
And that's not built in the timetable. But if I'm hearing the administrator correctly, she's assuming April installation of something, and yet hasn't anticipated the 2-month period for doing the bond ordinance, and that takes us.
It's in place for the park.
That was for a park plan that was proposed by the architect.
Veterans Park in 2030, Mayfield in 2040, and Hanson will be done by 2050.
It's the next bit of tomorrow. People seriously ran out of comments because they have the park improvement done. Well, I'm the road, and here it is 6 months after the end of the year. The plans approved. You have plans to look at. It's terrible.
Parking plan?
What?
I got it done for you. I got it done.
Yeah, we got it done last year. Sorry, that's okay, it's just water. We got it done last year.
That's something which I would think would be front, and it's discouraging that it isn't. I will also say in conclusion that I object to the conclusion that you shouldn't be putting padding under the swings because it's cost effective. Well, frankly, it's cost effective not to do any level padding, and the committee that met for months and months and months, and one of the major recommendations was to do rubber underneath the playground equipment. And who just decided it? The PTA moms decided they didn't want to have rubber padding. I would certainly recommend that you reconsider that. It seems to be the decision that you've made. It seems to be cost effective is not what we have to worry about in Englewood Fields when it comes to park improvements and the safety of the children. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. It's the first applause we ever got up here.
Fair. I should have made it before, since it's my first meeting back. I will say this, I recognize Englewood Cliffs public meetings tend to be a little more free flowing and interactive. I just want to say from a legal perspective, public is certainly able to come up and speak. You are not required to answer questions, or staff not required to answer questions. You're not required to engage back and forth. I recognize that happens.
You just enjoy each other's company so much.
Feel like I'm gonna say it, and then you all can.
See,
Just gonna.
Big umbrella carrier.
Yeah.
And you all got those booklets, I think, sent them out.
Yeah.
On the back page was very specific about limiting the. Because of the legal aspects of it. And I think that that's what our new attorney is referring to as well.
Yeah, if you heard of Happy Valley, this is Happy Cliffs, okay?
Yeah.
And I disagree with that as a resident and as a public, I disagree with that. We should be to this, and we should get answers otherwise.
I just want to make sure that I can comment from a legal perspective. How you interact is totally sound.
Okay, we're gonna hear from Mrs. Geiger, and then I see Mrs. Jones on line.
70 for the same address. I guess I have a few questions about the agenda, and I'll go to the real issues for me anyway. On the agenda, you have the approval of the emergency medical services contract. One of the issues was where ambulances would be housed when it becomes a Michael's construction zone. So I'd like to know where is going to be housed. So there any other changes to the contract from the last one?
The ambulances are going to be housed at the Englewood Health Systems building. So
Okay, I have a concern about that as a resident. And the concern I have is a similar one. When the ambulances were stationed in Cliffs, it was very clear that Englewood Cliffs was going to be the priority and the only recipient of those ambulance services. And I recall sitting here ago volunteer ambulance services were abolished, and there were many concerns about availability, response time, et cetera, et cetera. If we move to the northern end of town, which is almost at Sage and W, or past Sage, if I recall, and W, what's to prevent the Englewood ambulances from going to Tenafly, Closter, Cresco, that they will service now that they're not resident in Englewood Cliffs?
Right now, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's how it works with the Vibrant system.
Yeah.
As in the 99% Englewood Cliffs. I wonder what's gonna happen if they're over there and a call comes in. We have a problem with the southern end of town. How are they getting there? Who's establishing the priorities? How many is going to be there?
So that's a question. We should look into that, okay? Yeah, just part and also how we're gonna. It's a practical matter. The resident's asking a good question.
As far as the location goes, it's much further away, and I've voiced this in the past, that the fire department should be very happy to host a partner in emergency services. If I don't know that, then let them come object to it. I would like the fire department to object to hosting the ambulance corps. All they do is going to park a vehicle there right in the center of town. I would like to see them go on the record saying that they reject it. I want to see them.
Yeah, no, you're right. This came up years ago as well. But the problem for the hospital corps, I would call back then, was that our fire department has a bar area with liquor inside. Okay, there's refrigeration and stuff, and they were not permitted to be there because of the presence of alcohol in that building. So if you just give it alcohol, which it's never a bad idea, right? You can lock it up. You could, it's actually, but your point is taken, David, convenient and centrally located. They could have one there, they could have one in 7.
Right now, what they're saying is they're putting it at this location, which is just right before Sage Road, and just a heartbeat from Clinton Avenue. So, and it's coming to almost Tenafly to go all the way to the south side. Whatever just into the no listens to you anymore. This is my question. Simple resolution. Excuse me. Resolution 225. That says venue to be determined for the organization meeting. Is something happening that it won't be in the council chamber?
Yes. It's a resolution this evening, and I believe it came through mayor-elect to have it at the upper school because Mayor-elect Park, you're expecting a larger crowd, correct? That was the reasoning? Yes.
Okay, didn't know that. Other question on resolution. Looking for the number. 227 about the Michaels development, which I'm very happy is proceeding to closing. Point 3 says that the borough attorney is authorized, blah, blah, blah. But not limited to initiating litigation and furtherance of the borough and effectuating settlement. Is there any litigation that we expect to have initiated? Why is this section here? It might be pro forma, if that's pro forma. Was there something there? I realize you don't have to answer, but on page, it's the resolution regarding the Michael School. And you 226, no, 227, I'm sorry. The flip page, I guess, because it's a 2-page. And it just.
Reason that that is there because there are some title issues that have to be taken care of, so we're authorizing our attorney to deal with those title issues.
Okay. But I thought that was on the other page.
The deed restriction,
Title issues.
are those deed restriction issues?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that, a couple of random easements that go back. So,
Okay.
so it's theoretically possible
I
that.
understand. I know, I read that from the court case.
I don't want the board of that being sued, so work it out.
Okay. Two other issues. Parks, as you all know, I'm a member of the park committee, and I'm somewhat surprised to hear what's going on. The park committee did a very extensive analysis on the park, and the one thing we committed to as a group very strongly and unanimously was to have poured rubber underneath all the playground equipment. We this would be a major expense, approximately 200 to 300,000 a playground, and we decided that irrespective of the expense, this was something that was necessary to protect our children, and we unanimously asked for it. It was in the specifications, it was in the presentations to the public, it was in the presentations to the council in all the back. And I'm very, very upset for lack of funds. This item was moved from being under the swings, and as any parent or grandparent knows, children fall off the swings. That's one of your danger spots. It's almost as bad as the equivalent of the monkey bars, which children fall off of. And I find it very surprising and shocking that the administrator is recommending that be from the Veterans Park, and I think the council should reconsider it. I'm also concerned about the statement made by Mrs. Stern about the money set aside for the park improvement and playground equipment. Those of us who sat with Boswell during playground discussions and that were in the playground, that amount of about 250,000 was a balancing number set aside for playground equipment. It was not meant to be an absolute. It was a guesstimate on what it would cost or should cost, given to us by Boswell, not by the committee. So to come back and say that it's going to cost us, but because Ms. Stern has not told us a dollar figure, but it's enough for whether to go on the swings, which would create a situation that we believe is unsafe for the children, is very distressing. The other excuse me, and the other comment I have is about the use of GameStop or whatever that is. The community, John, and some members who went out to view every single park in the county, we had others who went to other places and submitted the pictures of what parks could be, because we wanted something very special. And because of that, all parks in this plan estimated to cost close to $1 million for the two parks, which was increase over that of the prior plan. We wanted stellar parks for our children. I'm not sure what we're getting now. I don't think Mrs. Sabari has been contacted, and she certainly was very familiar with what the committee as a whole had in so what they were concerned about. And I urge the council not to move forward on this quickly until it can be examined, because with all the rushing, all I'm seeing is delay. We still don't have good specs. We still don't have good specs, and if you go out for a contract, you can contract and have a separate person go out and do the installation. It doesn't have to be that you're paying percentages twice, once to be installed for his members to buy a state contract. Another idea which was floated around the committee was going down to various equipment manufacturers and asking them, go through a favor and have them come in with plans. So we got the best lines working, presenting a plan for our community, not going to one group who frankly had problems with what was being done in the committee and presented pictures that we presented to the council. So we got facsimiles that were right off the hand route. So I just wanted to add that for the council's information. I also wanted to ask if anybody on the council has ever heard of green investments. Anybody?
Yes,
Okay, can you tell me that?
just that I know. I looked them up online.
Do you know that the website says they're building 807? Just look at Greenbaum, look at their projects, and one of them is 800 Sylvan Avenue.
I did see that on the internet. I can't provide you an explanation because I didn't try to contact Greenbaum. So I just assumed that they were an investment company with 807.
Subset. So I don't know. The question this is because I've been following this been happening courts lately. And it's very interesting to me that Judge Farrington today that it doesn't matter because you have rights that you can transfer from 871 to 872. That's included in settlement agreements. And she's correct. But I don't know. And I would want to know if I was a borough of all these subsidiaries has the authorization from all these other groups that say they have an interest in 807 or talk about 807. Who has the right to represent them at the table? I'm negotiating with, and I think that the borough should know that when it has it. Not even so an assignment, but the people that we're negotiating this in truth represent all the people who are talking about this. It's just a comment. The other comment has to do with her decision today, and I hope that this borough consideration, I don't expect a response, will consider for reconsideration of her order based on her comments on Mr. Lunch. The reason for that is because certificate was submitted by Mr. Lunch to the court state the council members. He doesn't say that they are becoming council members and perhaps changing the complexion of this council. And I think that the court order, and I can relevant paragraphs, but I don't think I have to. Anyone can read the last paragraph of the order. He thinks that two council people are in this. It's very different. Now, Mr. Daston's presentation to the court did clarify the role of Mr. Park as the and the other two council who come on. But the judge statements of Mr. Lynch and so I hope that this council does authorize whoever they have in place to do the motion for consideration, because we should do decisions that are based on misleading information. Don't get to I'm just looking.
So while you look at your notes, all I will say is, can you imagine a country like Russia or China, the judge gets to pick for you, despite your free choice to do so yourself. Welcome to Judge Farrington's American jurisprudence, where an elected body made a vote. Mr. Lunch, because of the way Mr. Lunch behaved with the advice he's given us, she is compelled. For some reason, she thinks because affordable housing, she can do what she wants. This is not Judge Farrington, this is CC. Show. Away from us.
The public. agrees. I would like to state that Judge Farrington did not get full information. She had 3 certifications from 3 council members who did not constitute a majority of this mayor council. The majority did authorize the appointment of Mr. Gaston, the majority did Mr. Lynch, and then kindly failed to articulate why. I hope that this council will articulate why they took the action and submit it to the court, because what we know the court has before it are the statements of 3 council people, 2 of them by the resolution today. And because I don't want answers, this is litigation, I'm going to talk about the open lawsuit. Something that I have been following. It's another issue. One of the letters that appeared in courts was between Ms. Asbury Kim, where she went to the mayor and anything disrespectful. Now, I have a lot of problems with a lot of the comments and decisions that the mayor makes, but I think it is absolutely outrageous that for the board would sit there and taunt the mayor saying Java, this, you know about that, you know about this. And I hope that you consider appointing this level to continue, because I understand that papers that give you the option but I think anybody with an official with such disrespect by this and that's it. Thank you.
Mrs. O'Shea.
Okay, yes, Mary O'Shea, 12 Irving Avenue, Englewood Cliffs. 3 things I would like to bring up. When you had discussion shortly before with Bernie Morandi there about the smoke test, I had brought up 3 or 4 months ago that there was a test that they used to use to check to see who had their sump pumps illegally hooked up into the sanitary sewers. And at that time, Mr. Morandi never mentioned anything. Then the following month, he said that they were engaging a contract with somebody to do a smoke test. And every time that he's being asked about it subsequently, I hear him going around in circles and really not giving any information. I'd like to know when they initiated the smoke test. When did they start it? How many streets have they done? And how many illegal hookups for sump pumps connected to the sanitary sewers have they discovered? Mr. Morandi.
Yes, the smoke testing started on or about October after change in contract. Low bidder was awarded, the town awarded the contract. Shortly before that time, we had a pre-construction meeting with National Water Main. There was originally a low contractor that the prior administrator had suggested we inquire with a number. They were the low bidder. They were unresponsive regarding the and then the work went to National Water Bank because there's also a video component of it that is being performed. So most of the work is done in the areas that were identified, with the exception of Sylvan Avenue, which requires state permit to get out there, and the DPW is working with the gentleman. First name is Carson on expediting that work so they could complete it. There's been we're putting the report together on the information we have to date, and then it'll be complete once we have the smoke testing done along the Sylvan Avenue corridor.
Well, aren't most of these illegal hookups residential hookups, like where they've been built big new houses, mega mansions, and then have those recessed driveways, and they need the sump pumps to keep the water out? And these very easily could have been hooked up to the sanitary sewers.
There was a house that was flooded during the Ida storm that we were in with their engineer. Took a look at that, and that property owner had indicated that after the house was built and approved, that they brought their plumber in and changed their sump pump and tied it into the sanitary system. So there are a few that way. I was inspecting a property the other day, and I was walking around. I heard the sump pump initiate, and I asked the contractor, who happened to be on site, because I didn't see it on the as-built survey, where is that connection going? And they indicated into the easement that was on the drainage easement that was on the property. So there are multiple illicit connections, and you also have some cross connections with the inlets along the curb lines that you have that tie into to that. So that's all part of upon the completion of the evaluation of that, would be our recommendations to the mayor and council on how to address it, and it'll be their decision on how they want to move forward.
Okay, but Mr. Morandi, talking about doing Sylvan Avenue inspection of the sanitary sewers has more to do with the development at 800 Sylvan, not as much as illegal hookups into the sanitary sewers from sump pumps. The sanitary sewer hookups from sump pumps is generally in the residential area. And again, I would like to get a number. How many houses have you located? How many streets have you done? If you were going to say that out of the town, 100% of the residential areas, what percent has this sewer company smoke tested? 10%, 25%, 50%, 75%, or 5%?
Study correct to the areas that identify the projects, the 800 Sylvan project and the Michaels project area. So there was contributory areas, 4 or 5 that have been done. We did not do the entire town. That's correct.
But because you had said that we have such overflow in the sanitary sewers when there's a rainfall, and I understand you said pipes have leakage coming in, but I believe that in the past, when they did these smoke tests years ago, my father was involved working on the pump stations, and I know that a lot of it was from homeowners. And I really feel that we're dropping the ball here, and we're not finding out the illegal hookups and getting them turned off. There's so much new building that's been done. I mean, people put in retention basins and everything else, but you don't know afterwards, do they hook up to the sanitary sewer? And it really needs to be corrected. And they need to go through the town and find these hookups.
Correct. Mrs. O'Shea, I mentioned in the last meeting, and I don't think anyone followed up on it, that the Bergen County Utilities Authority has all kinds of data. And they monitor how much the water infiltration increases during rainfall. And I requested to have an analysis of that. I heard in the beginning, there are 2 flumes, then I was told there are more measuring flumes around town. But I think the more information that we have prior to, we can isolate the areas where the most infiltration is. And I don't know how Boswell has gone about it. I saw no reports. I have no information whatsoever. But I think there's a way quickly of doing some detective work and solving the more severe areas first, and then do the rest of the town, because you can tell the more severe areas by doing an analysis with the numbers, with the Bergen County Utilities Authority, and then do your work accordingly. I don't know what has been done. All I know, it's been taking way too long.
I just think we're going around in circles. I just feel like the council is getting double talk and no action, and nothing is being accomplished. That's my opinion. Now, my other issue, I would like to say the audio is still terrible. I cannot hear most of the people talking. I cannot hear the other comments clearly from the members in the audience that it's speaking. And I sit here just to wait for my turn to talk, because I do not understand what anybody is saying. Okay.
So we had an excellent installer. I'd like to respond to that. We've had an excellent installer do the video piece. We had to delay the audio piece. And I had asked the borough administrator and highly recommended to her that we use the same company that did a very good installation for the video, for the audio. Because if we use different companies, everyone's going to be pointing to each other if we have a problem. It's just best practice. So meanwhile, we are way under the bid threshold. We could have gotten this done. We could have contracted the company to do it. But instead, we've gone out and wasted our time getting more and more bids. It's fine if you're going to get one bid, but let's get the damn thing done. Do something and get it done, and then forget about it. And then our problem is fixed. So I'm encouraging the borough administrator to get the same company in. They did a good job. They come if there's a problem. We'll have one. We already have multiple companies. We have a company for the court. Let's limit it, and then we have one company and we get it done.
Councilman, if I may. So you, on the things that you don't like, you want more people, you want to get more information, more bids on playground equipment, more, you want to go out to more people, but on the things that you want to move forward with, you don't want to have any more information.
I make a motion to accept Tech Media's bid to complete the audio in the council chambers. Second.
I second that.
16,000, I believe.
I second that.
16,000. It's 15,000.
So just say it's less than 17.
Less than 17,000.
Two quotes that are very similar. We have 2 quotes that are much higher. They're different companies, and everybody who came here said the same thing. Obviously, they don't want to touch other people's equipment, because there are a lot of things that might be wrong with what was done here along the way. Going forward, it seems to me that we have 2 quotes that are very close, and I thought one of them took a lot longer. It was the Tech Media one, which is the last one I got about a week ago, and that one, and one from BIS, which is a company that has installed much of the other equipment here through the years. And they were the closest. One was 10,000 and change. The other one is 20,000. Yes. With no quotes and with no other. Nobody else looking at. No.
So there's a motion in this session.
So I know in public session. Stop. You don't have the floor. It's fine. We are in public. The residents' time will be respected. There's been a second. Was there any discussion? Second, tabling, there's a motion to table. Can you- Let's, to table, so.
Oh, member Katrubis. Member Kim?
Yeah.
Member Kim?
the table?
Yes, that's.
Council President Luciano?
Motion to table.
Member Simon?
Yes.
Member Di Gregorio?
No. Okay, so we're gonna play a quarter call on hiring tech media. That's $17,000 to get out of this room.
Member Katrubis?
Discussion. Discussion.
I'm sorry. Sure. I'm sorry, hold the voting, I'm sure, sorry, I thought we did this.
So, Chair Stern, you have 4 quotes for the audio now. Tech Media has one of the leads.
Tech meeting was the lowest of 4. The 2 were very close. And the other 2, the 2 that are closer, one is Tech Media, the other one is BIS, which also installed some of the original equipment here and does a lot of other courtrooms and council chambers. Tech Media does a lot of schools. I just think that it would be nice for somebody to sit down and compare what you're buying.
Oh,
We're all the same amount,
I see.
that's all I'm saying before we decide, but if you wanna go ahead and go with Tech
It wasn't
Media.
for-
And what was the call from Tech Media? Tech Media was 16,000 and change, and the other one was $23,000. Difference of $7,000 with a disclaimer from Biz that they're not responsible for the work that was done by others, which you would get on anybody in Biz, you'll vote on this.
Okay, any other discussion?
I want to say that I think this is really a clear indication of the double standard that our mayor has presented to us for the past few years. Any other time anybody tries to make a motion in public, during a public portion, he would say, no, you can always.
So
This is the.
let's stick with the substance. Quite frankly, it's been too long for the public minutes.
Okay.
It's been too long for the public not to be able to hear us, okay? So I don't care if it was made, I don't care if it was made in the bathroom. I just want the sound system in here fixed and good. Everyone has taken the lead. We've got a second, we have 2 votes. Yes.
Council President Luciano? Member Simon?
Yes.
Member Di Gregorio?
Yes.
All right, so it passed. Thank you. Let's just get that rolling.
Okay, now the last thing I want to bring up.
No.
This is the holiday season, and in past years, we have had a Christmas tree lighting outside the
Wow.
borough hall on that lovely fir tree that's there. But unfortunately, this year, we don't have any lights on that tree, but we have a menorah lit, and I think that's a little disingenuous. I think we need to have lights on the Christmas tree, the same as we have the lit menorah.
Lights.
Right.
We're waiting for, so Hanukkah's running, second, 7th.
Pardon me?
Sorry, yeah. Yeah.
There's no lights on the Christmas tree.
Yeah. So,
But the menorah is lit.
show the Hanukkah celebration was on Saturday. And, yeah, okay.
What? What did you say? The tree is the tree outside is not lit.
Yes.
You know, this is our chef, so look at this. See the light is the tree.
Stop. That's all.
So you can't do that.
I know, but you have to actually improve the sound system, then they're complaining. That's not changing.
That's 40,000.
Okay, Mr. Telzer, you're next. Mr. Telzer, can you hear me? You're next. Mr. Telzer, you're next.
Yes, I can hear you now. Should I speak now?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Thank you. That's a yes.
Like when Mary was speaking, I could hear Mary, but the sound of the council people is hit or miss.
Fine.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, good. Glad to hear it. I wanted to be there tonight, but I had a long drive and I really want to be there for your last meeting. So if I felt I could have been there and driven safely, I was just too exhausted. I had a long day, but I wanted to wish you, Mr. Mayor, and the two council persons well, and
Thank you.
I want to speak to address each of you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I think that you really have to come back to politics and run for Congress or Senate. I'll help you. I'll get people to help you. You know, New Jersey.
It's so rude.
Let me speak.
Thank you.
New Jersey is so corrupt. There's so much corruption in New Jersey.
Here.
And you have
Yeah.
a good read on that, but also the court. But also on the courts. And,
Indeed.
in terms of what's going on with Judge Farrington, I think you have an idea, both as an attorney, but also from your experience with what's going on. And
Lost that all.
Thank you. We'll work on it. And like I said, you can't fix America without fixing these towns first.
He's on a connection.
Okay.
I can't hear you, but I hope you're hearing. I hope you're hearing me. But I really say that emphatically. That you have
Maybe by next month.
right, and it's really neat. It's really needed badly. That we have politicians that can really help. So I hope you come back in another capacity. It's really important. And I wanted to also.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Sabari is next.
I'm not done yet.
No, he's not done. I'm sorry.
I'm still speaking.
Sorry.
I wanted to thank Congresswoman Valari, Councilwoman Valari.
Thank you.
You came late, and that can't be easy. But even before you were Councilwoman, you did a great job. And helped the town. And I could see that it was really important to you, and it was appreciated by a lot of people.
Thank you.
So I hope you can hear me now. Okay, good. And then Councilman Katrubis, I met you outside the councilman, and before Mayor Kranjak ran for office, and I was very impressed by you, and I told you then you should run for mayor, and I still think so. But Mark's going to do a great job. But after Mark is done, I hope you come back. And you have a lot of talent and a lot of grit, and I have a lot of respect for you.
Thank you very much.
And I hope to see you back, and I hope to see you at meetings, and I really appreciate it. So I think the town is losing three good people. I can't hear you, but so I hope you can hear me. And I just wanted to say on a couple of other notes, the August video is not up. Does anybody know what's going on with that? The August mayor and council meeting video is not.
It should be up. I put all the videos up.
It's not, and it's not even on the list. So if somebody could look into that.
Okay, don't look into that.
I want to wish everybody. Thank you. I wanted to wish everybody a happy holiday. I have a sign behind. I'm not name close. I have a sign behind me. It's Attack Cat right now. my cat sitting here on my lap. And, without going happened to me because everybody knows.
I'll go bring my dog.
Without going into what happened. I just want to close with this. Without going into what happened to me, which everybody knows, you know, there's a trifecta of things that happen to innocent men, and one of them is bringing children into a story, and another one is sex crimes, and then the kicker, which didn't happen, is a charge of animal abuse, for example, right? So I was things were so out of hand before Mayor Kranjak came to town that I was actually afraid to have an animal in an Englewood Club. So it's really nice that there's so much civility, and I know it may not seem that way, but Mayor, you've done a fantastic job. You really have. We have
Thank you very much.
A police department that people respect again, and that I respect, and the reputation of the town. So I hope people appreciate you when you're gone. When you're gone, and I'm going to close on that.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Barry?
And thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
Hi. We can hear you.
Hi, Mr. Barry, can you hear us? Yeah. Go
Hi,
ahead.
Deborah Sabari, 106 Hollywood. Wow, this video is very difficult to hear. So I'm glad to hear that you guys voted to do something about it. I can hear some of you and others, it's muffled. I wanted to comment on the playground equipment. I'm very familiar with the PTA that was brought on board to help with the picking of the equipment. Have a lot of respect for them. But it was always my understanding that the council as a whole would be involved in the process of picking the equipment. Very disappointed to hear that the rubber matting has been removed from underneath the swings. It was actually Boswell was adamant that it was of the utmost importance that the rubber matting be under all of the equipment, and that it extend 3 feet, I believe it was 3 feet, it might have been more, beyond the equipment. I'm not really sure I understand why we would have removed that. Not sure why the council doesn't have a committee after our committee was banded that would move forward on working on picking out the equipment. I don't know what equipment was picked, so I have no idea if that represents what the committee as a whole had discussed. I hope that it had. I know there were promises made to Ed Fair that they would involve residents of the South Side in regards to the Irving Park. I don't know if that happened. But I'm really kind of disappointed that we took out the matting, and I hope that this council would consider putting it back in. It was in the budget. I don't see why we would have to eliminate anything and try to do some cost savings to that, unless, of course, something else that I'm not aware of. I really hope that we just move forward. We could bid these cars out without the park equipment. I don't know why it's waited this long. Bid specifications should have been done already. We should have been out to bid. We could have easily excluded the park equipment and have already gotten back our bids to, certify that our budgets were in fact in line with what we believed. And I strongly believe that those budgets were very conservative and that we were going to come in within those numbers based on the previous committee's bids. I put a lot of work and a lot of time into comparing the two to make sure that when we went out to this community, that we weren't blowing smoke and that we actually could come in within these numbers. So I think it's time to just stop. I mean, I don't know what the council needs to vote on, but we need to move forward. I mean, there's no reason why we are not out to bid already. We should be out to bid and we should be moving forward. And the playground equipment, you know, get anybody you want involved, but get it done. You know, when you have so many opinions coming in, nothing gets done. So I think we need to move forward. It's time to stop, get the bids out, get it done. If you're not sure what you want to do with the park equipment, it's an 8-week lead item. Take it out of the bids, bid out the rest of the project. If the specs are done for everything else, why are we holding back? We need to move forward. We need to get this park done. It's been way too long. And I want to wish everybody a happy and healthy holiday and a happy new year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else from the public? Nope, anybody here wishing to be heard? Okay, kind of motion to close the public portion.
Second.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Let's go. Committee reports, council discussion, does anybody have anything to discuss? Either the council or the committee reports?
Update on the Mr. Tiger, whether it's Mr. Dasty or our town or Justine, the borough attorney.
Is that a closed session item?
Right, it's a public record. I mean, I'd like to have this entered. I'd like to have the order. Order, please put that enter the record of the minutes. So that
They can do that and speak to that four corners of that document. They can't give you any strategy or
get some structure. You wanted him to explain what happened with the court. And to enter this order in the minutes of our meeting. That's what I said. So don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I'd like
just
to
remember, even
there was some, and maybe you don't know it, but I noticed there was some. Law firm. That were all.
Yes,
For those, what were those cases that they were related?
it was, well, I have to think off the top of my head, there was 2 entries. Intra, there was still, if you remember, I was still talking about that interest on. And the rest of it was random special counsel work. So if you'll look back, there'll be on some entries that take intra specifically probably from January, February, March, April-ish to the last one. And then the rest that build there from the late spring could be, remember on council record on the appeal, on the attorney's fees issue. So if we some stuff in that, could be some stuff from Oprah's. I've done Oprah work over the past 11 months. I submitted it. Oh, yeah. This is the first I'm saying, yeah. I don't know, I think I was saying at one point to Elizabeth, like, I know this. Yeah, so I don't know, I can't speak to you specifically. Yeah, so they were submitted, if you look on those bills, the other increments. So if the first increment, let's say, is April, May, or February, March, I submitted those somewhere around then. The next set of bills was like the April, May, or May, June ones. And you know, it's not a large number overall, but obviously I might get paid. So that's why there's.
all right. Anybody else? No, okay, can I have a motion to approve payment of vouchers? This is resolution 23-223. Payment of bills in the aggregate amount of $777,845.66. Is there a motion? Can I have a motion? Thank you. Can I have a second? Can I have a second? There was second. Okay, let's have discussion. With a motion and a second and discussion.
Does anybody have any issues on the bill list?
What's the question? I don't know, you can't have all those things in here.
We asked if there's any issues.
Yeah.
This microphone is off.
Oh, okay.
No discussion, right?
There's no discussion? Okay, roll call.
Member Valari,
I'll say yes.
member Katurbis,
Abstain.
member Kim.
Yes.
Council President Luciano. Member Simon,
Yes.
member Di Gregorio.
Yes.
So it passes. Next up is the consent agenda. All consent agenda items will be enacted with a single motion. Any items requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda.
Are we going to, I'm sorry,
Sorry.
are we going to close?
Yeah, we are, it's down below, it's after this.
I'm wondering whether to,
Want to go to closed session first?
so what I'd like to do, I have a few resolutions to add. So I guess I could do that.
You can do it right now if you want.
Okay.
So, no, I think.
Okay.
So here's the thing, right, is anybody able to object to the consent agenda? If you are, let's not waste time going down that rabbit hole, let's just go.
Member Valari,
So can we have it?
Discussion.
I recall we had an issue with them in terms of identifying.
It's already on.
it's changed.
Got the names. They got what he requested.
It's okay. It's okay. Let him answer this question.
Was your issue?
Yeah, it's all here.
Member Valari,
I just had one question before we do that. So for the reorg meeting, when is it about January 3rd?
January 3rd.
At what time?
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
These guys discussed.
We just have to discuss.
And
That's not in the resolution.
And-
Motion.
do you want to just
So I make a motion to table and make it an issue.
Oh,
It's consent.
let's go back and hold on a second. Excuse me. What we could do is let's do the consent agenda with a date and time as it is, and then we'll come back and do the place and then we'll get this done.
Member Valari,
Yes.
member Katurbis,
Yes.
member Kim,
Yes.
Council President Luciano, member Simon,
Yes.
member Di Gregorio.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Katrubis, you wanted to make a motion
I'd
about,
like to make a motion. For reorg meeting, where the location will be at the upper school for. Mr. Park's request.
Second, I think that was a resolution. wasn't it?
Was it?
okay, so the resolution was a date, this is about the place. Has the school been notified or has anybody requested? Because we don't control that building.
Not as I am. I know for sure Mr. Clark did it.
Make it at school, assuming that they approve it, if not, it could be.
So subject to the school's approval for that evening. That's the motion.
Yeah.
That's my motion.
It's good to go.
Second.
It's subject to, it's no big deal.
So, first off, discussion on. Or the other word you guys want to see. But I think that's.
This is simple.
Stand.
This is simple.
No, it's not simple.
This is simple.
Such a big issue about recording the, we have a big issue about all of your Zoom. Are we gonna Zoom the meeting?
We'll figure-
It's gonna make any sense.
We'll figure-
Who's gonna pay the fees that every time we have to use this? That we got, this is where we have our reorganization meetings. With all due respect to council, to the mayor, if he wants to have a separate swearing in ceremony, then he should have it at the school. But I think we should take care of all the business. This is not seat of government. This is the Zoom crazy thing. The swearing in should be in the council chambers. If you think it's gonna be overloaded, then why don't we do a business? then you go to the school, have your swearing in.
Yeah.
Invite everybody you want.
That's okay, so-
You have to pay for security, you gotta pay for cleaning, who's paying for all that?
You sound like a sore loser, but
So.
it's the school, they should.
I think out of courtesy to the mayor-elect, that we follow his very simple request of having the meeting up at the upper school. We can record it, we can put it on Zoom if we need to, if anything is possible. And I support the request and I support that it be in the upper school. We're expecting
Stuff that you have to get paid for.
Okay, so subject, yes, sir.
I thought we were ready.
I don't know how much you do, you know, I would take it. No, sir, and I'm not trying to really channel. I know that when sports people use, we have to pay for a custodian, we gotta pay for, you gotta pay for all this other stuff. I think, say, so let me finish. Like I said, it has nothing to do with that. I just want to make sure. And that's great. But I thought we could check it out. I thought you had got approval, but I'm just pointing it out, so. That it's, or is. People who want to come to the seat of our government for legal. I want to say
So many things over so many different other issues. I didn't see that.
Of course there is.
So.
So it's 17.
And people have a question, is that the right?
Yeah, so the subject to everything getting worked out.
Right.
On January 3rd at 7 p.m. at the upper school. So if that doesn't work out, then we'll do it here.
So make the motion.
Remember.
Okay.
Yes.
Same thing, so I understand.
Member Kim,
Yes.
Council President Luciano,
No.
Member Simon.
No.
Member Di Gregorio.
Yes.
It passes.
4-2, okay, passes, all right, so just let's coordinate that as much as we can. Okay, and
Okay.
anything else before we go into closed session? Have a motion to go into closed session?
Before we go into closed session, I just wanted to bring up a couple of, we might as well do it now.
Okay.
Okay, so we have 4 resolutions. One is. When we go, the first one is the shortest resolution, I can pass them out if you like. Resolution to require the vote. So resolution to require.
That's one son, you know.
This is the reasons for these motions are to foster good government for the residents of Englewood Cliffs. So we discussed already about the communication that was happening. This resolution is to require the borough administrator to provide weekly reports to the governing body. I will be glad to read the whole thing.
No, it's not.
It's been forwarded to the mayor and council, the governing body of the borough of Englewood Cliffs, to be kept regularly apprised of the actions taken and communications received by the borough administrator. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. Press them out. Pass them out this way. Madam, maybe pass them down that way. 1, the borough administrator is hereby directed to prepare a weekly report summarizing the actions taken, communications received, and other information relating to the duties, responsibilities, activities, goals, and accomplishments of the borough administrator. The aforesaid report shall be typewritten in a memorandum or outline form and shall be transmitted to each member of the governing body by email by close of business on the last business day of each week. 3, notwithstanding the foregoing, the borough administrator shall immediately upon receipt forward to each member of the governing body all correspondence, including attachments received from any professionals. Professionals shall include but not be limited to attorneys, law firms, engineers, engineering firms, accountants, accounting firms, planners, financial advisors, bankers, consultants, and consulting firms retained or otherwise engaged with the borough. This resolution shall take effect immediately. Shall I make the motion? And can we number this resolution?
Yes, that's fine. You may want to just consider exempting the week of our regular meeting, because you're getting,
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
We'll make the motion then. So that, yeah.
Should we have the floor to accept resolution
23-238.
23-338.
238.
You have
Discussion,
Second that.
discussion, Mary, discussion.
second by
By discussion, yes, Mr. Kim. Okay. Mr. Kim, yes.
So, Councilman, are you the one that's introducing this and came up with this resolution? Okay. How many other boroughs, out of my curiosity, how many other boroughs require this of the borough administrators? Are you any other boroughs with this type of resolution? The borough administrator to give the lengthy type of that you are seeking under this resolution.
We would say that within quite a few, if not the majority.
Is that?
I give up.
Question. Yes, Councilman.
No second, you can't.
Second. Second.
So do you have the discussion, Mr. Luciano? Do you have discussion?
They made a second to call the question, unlike yourself. I'm the conversation.
Okay, so
I don't think it was the second call process.
Some transparency, okay? This is what we heard about here. It was part of the time because of transparency. I want that attorney there, since the day was hired, to give me a written response to my request. Tim didn't say anything, he's smiling over there and chuckles that he is, haven't said a damn thing about it, because he was going to become part of this. So now, they don't say anything. Even if it was given to us verbally, that's what I think is best. I don't want to. I can understand it, but for some reason, for months, they couldn't understand it. Talking about it. When did you type this up?
What difference does it make?
It's already sitting here.
What difference does it make?
See, once again, springs on resolution.
Is the question?
A committee for the past, but we don't have a committee either. So it's the same thing. Those resolutions, just like Tim's meeting, resolutions and motions at the end of the meeting.
Sorry, here. Resolution that let's talk about the substance. Talk about the substance of that document, not the process. This is fine.
So let me finish. There's a no, it's like to do this. Even before that didn't care what they did. We just took it down all of a sudden, because you know what, it's with the rest of the crazies that it says we said disrespectful. It's one thing and goes another. Side. Somebody saying that transparency, and just like our attorney should give us everything
Every council member should have every single thing for one time.
No, they will. No, they will. No, they will.
Okay, further discussion. That's another question as council then. So from Mr. Kim, for Council Leader Guerrero, time amount do you recommend that the board administrator spend to gather this information and provide that?
Shouldn't take long. That's.
Let's say recommended time.
Recommend the time just as long as it's all communicated to the council. If it takes 5 minutes, that's fine. If it takes 3 hours.
What is the time that most administrators and other boards that you say? The says, hey, it's okay, then. And yet at the same time, like you criticize the administrator and other professionals. And yet, time that you comment on them, additional duties that under the for
that's fine. Copying the council. Why am I telling them they're ready? Am I supposed to duplicate that just to be clear? Okay, just to be clear.
That's something this request also synonymous with our affordable housing attorneys from the Boston law firm.
What's coming? Well, the question. It's called a question.
Yes, I said yes. Member Katrubis? Member Kim?
Yeah.
Council President Luciano? Member Simon? Member Di Gregorio?
Yes.
I think there's a lot of ways to deal with this from many installers' point of view. You could dictate, you could type. I say yes. I think it's a good thing.
No, but it says.
No, you could dictate. I make a motion to amend the resolution to include written or dictation. Dictation and like speech to text dictation. Correct. Yeah, let's do that. I mean, let's put it in there. Fine. Is it your?
I do. Here we go.
Well, stop doing the improv, all right? Stop.
It's expect things from certain members of the council, and then ever since they disbanded the affordable housing committee, they've done every single thing. See?
Using personal email. I'm gonna see. So you got
Okay.
Yeah, I like that one.
Resolution. Resolution 239. Resolution 239, resolution opposing the retention of Albert H. Wunsch, the third Esquire, to represent the governing body of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs. So it is vital for the proper exercise of the duties and responsibilities of the mayor and council of the governing body of the Englewood Cliffs, that all professionals retained by the governing body keep the governing body abreast of the work they are performing on behalf of the governing body for the borough. And whereas it is particularly essential that attorneys retained by the governing body must conduct themselves and discharge their duties in accordance with the professional standards. And whereas Albert H. Wunsch III, Esquire, in parentheses, Wunsch, was retained by the governing body in January 2023 as special counsel to handle specific matters related to affordable housing issues in the borough. First and foremost of which was the claim by 800 Sylvan, herein together with its successors and signees referred to as 800 Sylvan, of damages allegedly arising from the borough's breach of the Affordable Housing Settlement Agreement signed on October 20th, October 2020, and whereas for 10 months from January 2023 and all time subsequent thereto until his discharge in October 2023, Wunsch purported to be negotiating a settlement agreement with 800 Sylvan. And whereas at no point during his retainment did Wunsch seek the governing body's direction as to the parameters and limitation of any settlement he was purportedly negotiating. And whereas at no point did Mr. Wunsch furnish the governing body with any settlement agreement offered by 800 Sylvan, and further, at no time during his retainment did Wunsch prepare and furnish any draft settlement agreement for review and discussion by the governing body. And whereas on one occasion, Wunsch presented the governing body with an undocumented list of dollar amounts and costs that, in his judgment, 800 Sylvan was purportedly seeking to have reimbursed by the borough, and Wunsch recommended that the borough approve and pay the same. And whereas in response to Wunsch's undocumented list on July 12th, the governing body retained Robert Powell from Nassau Capital to review Wunsch's undocumented numbers, and whereas the governing body never received any report from Robert Powell, and Powell was discharged on November 9th, 2023 for failing to provide the information sought by the governing body with respect to Wunsch's undocumented list of costs. And whereas the governing body disbanded its 3-member Affordable Housing Committee on August 9th, 2023, appointed itself as committee of the whole and directed Wunsch to furnish governing body with all documents related to the settlement agreement, settlement negotiations. And whereas Wunsch failed to continue Wunsch failed and continued to fail to provide the governing body with any such documentation, and insisted that the governing body must visit his private law firm offices if it wanted to see any such documentation. And whereas Wunsch was offered numerous opportunities by the governing body to disclose the terms and conditions of any settlement he purportedly was negotiating with 800 Sylvan, but failed to share any such information with the governing body. And whereas it was not until Wunsch was discharged by the governing body that Wunsch disclosed that a settlement of 800 Sylvan's claim was imminent. And whereas Wunsch my drawers are. Wunsch has billed the governing body approximately $300,000 for his work during 2023, and the governing body is unaware of any settlement agreement that Wunsch now claims to be near finalization. And whereas in a recent court filing, Wunsch attached certifications of council members Kim, Luciano, and Simon praising and commending Wunsch's performance, and such certifications fly in the face of the reality of Wunsch's failure to keep the governing body informed of the progress of his settlement discussions and his failure to seek guidance and instruction from the governing body concerning the same. And whereas any certification submitted to the court from 3 other council members, any certification submitted to the court from the 3 other council members, Di Gregorio, Katrubis, and Valari, would highlight the failures of Wunsch's performance and the lack of confidence in his ability to fully represent the governing body and to effectuate a settlement with 800 Sylvan that is in the best interest of the borough. Now, therefore, be it resolved as follows. The governing body hereby opposes the retention of Albert H. Wunsch III, Esquire, to represent the borough of Englewood Cliffs in any capacity, and directs the borough attorney to take appropriate judicial members in furtherance of such opposition. The governing body, 2, the governing body hereby affirms that it is willing to continue settlement negotiations with 800 Sylvan, and in connection therewith will retain different counsel for such a purpose. 3, this resolution shall take effect immediately.
Is there a second?
Come on, what do you got to do?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the discussion, I just want to say, I have the floor first. Everything David said is absolutely true. Okay, and it's quite an indictment, right? It really is. And not only that, but over the last 3 weeks, I've asked, or 2 weeks, I've asked Mr. Wunsch whether or not he has had any ex parte conversations or communications with the court. And he refuses to answer that question. So draw your own inference about that, and also about why Judge Farrington decided to slam him down on us the way she did. I mean, it's outrageous. I never saw anything like that in 33 years. It's just not the way judging should take place. We stay in our lane. I always said the court should stay in their lanes, and the legislature needs to stay in its lane. That's not what's happening here. Okay, this is absolutely true. And quite frankly, the only other thing we should do is get our $300,000 back from Wunsch, because he never actually informed any of us. He informed you guys, right? Maybe. He's absolutely the rogue attorney. He is rogue.
He sent to.
No. Oh, what town? Yeah.
It's not even true. It doesn't say here that the mayor refused to sign Powell's contract for 6 weeks. And that was the delay in Powell providing us with anything.
I thought you went to present it.
Signed it, signed it.
No, it wasn't presented.
Did you present this to me?
I didn't think that, Joe.
And somebody in this room, someone did not to say anything to me.
That is not the number that was thrown out there and say, hey, I should export it. Export it. Okay, costing it's on legal fees, costing current responsibility to close the door. Fees costing this versus traveler. Costing current as a result of increased material costs. This is happening today. It's all today. It's all okay. It's all it's all that's about that. Let's say this is happening today. You want the third? Yes, you want the third? I'm not sure. If you can't, one at a time, then 2 at a time.
Okay.
The judge's order today. Can this override the judge's order?
No, the resolution cannot override the judge's order.
And she will without
that. So just to be clear so we can talk about this and pose that in from a legal. Going our pros cons, no weaknesses of it, but the initial order from the judge was that Al along with Joe was to stay on for purposes of several different affordable housing matters, 800 litigation being one of them, in addition to Dasty, myself, anybody else through the borough. So that was ordered by the court initially. The part of the opposition to summary judgment, there was a cross motion filed seeking reconsideration of that. The judge denied it. He denied it. If you look at the motion, a lot of it, or part of it was procedural. The judge denied it by saying it's not a proper cross motion. The subject matter doesn't, it's not really. So she goes back and but certainly, so the only thing that this resolution would do from a legal standpoint is if I guess part of the resolution it authorizes me or I should ask you whoever to do it, but it would allow Mr. Dasty to go back to for reconsideration, attach this to the motion.
Right.
And then the judge would give it whatever weight she deems it appropriate, along with whatever legal arguments that Mr. Dasty makes on behalf of the borough, assuming the majority of the governing body votes in favor of this, that would be the will of the governing body. I would presume that the parties would submit opposition to it. I would assume, I don't want to speak for Mr. Wunsch, I assume that you put in some paperwork, or perhaps some of you will put in some paperwork in opposition to that before we make a decision at some point in time. So this doesn't supersede the order. It would just be something that, as part of that resolution.
Mr. Dasty, some members of the council team.
And it's presumably, if we're passed, that would be the policy of the government.
So there to be something to validate some of these assumptions that have been made.
Well, I assume, again, I don't want to, other than to say, I can talk. Yeah.
If we're talking about giving you authorization, and you can listen to Mr. Dasty. I asked you in the email, I asked Mr. Dasty, hopefully Mr. Dasty, there's a search, is going to bring up a whole bunch of written information tonight. So who wanted Mr. Dasty to oppose 800 Sylvan's motion? When was that ever voted? See what the resolution said. They did this on December 1st. The resolution clearly says, which I sent you today, that says we shared this. It said didn't say he had any approval to look at anything, any motion. So where is the approval? Because we're talking about how things gotta be there. And they're talking about January and how everybody needs to be informed. And now we have two motions that seem to be pretty intense. That were never even shared with us.
I have.
It's a motion that authorizes besides the text, but the thing contributors that they do and Mr. Dasty, which is in the draft.
That was the third.
Certainly, my understanding is that Mr. Dasty hired is for that purpose. That's why we explicitly stated that meeting or not. But my point is, everyone understood, I understood. The purpose of hiring him was because there was a deadline to respond to a summary judgment motion, which needed counsel. And we're trying to get it out of that. And so certainly there is an obligation to hire an attorney to respond to that motion. So where is that?
It's hate for town so much.
Don't talk. It's gonna show us Mr.
It counts so much. And it counts so much.
So nice.
There's only one thing that drives people to hate the town so much. Thing. It's even else.
We would be hesitant because we had Mr. Serenian, and even Mr. Serenian told us that, you know what? Al is the one that has a relation. If you think that, no disrespect to Mr. Dasty or his law firm, that or Mr. Wunsch, or even you, or anybody is not going to be able to negotiate a settlement with these people, you're out of your mind.
I spoke with him today.
He said.
I spoke with them. Yes.
The judge to let you out. Is that what you just said?
It does.
Is that what you just said?
And you said.
What I said is you just said that it depends on which attorney is before the judge who gets the best results. That's what you just said. Now, I heard everything you said.
Listen to the tape.
A second.
Member Valari?
Yes.
Member Chubis?
Yes.
Member Finn?
No.
Council President Luciano, Member Simon.
No.
Member Di Gregorio.
Yes.
Okay? Yes, yes, of course. Absolutely.
Then you can do.
Judge Howard, watch, oh.
It's law.
Smith.
Let's see who lives there.
Just come out. Just pop again, you know, super and sharp. Why don't you just come out with your.
Attack the issue, not the person. Attack the issue. Oh, by the way, it should. It should. It started when Englewood Cliff was zero affordable housing, and Englewood Cliff's tenure with zero affordable housing. Just everybody. That's what I promised everybody, you know, and it's a. You know what, it's gonna. Look, the last time I checked, the housing market's not so great. No. So, stop.
So this is a resolution awarding professional services contract for special counsel to Mr. Dasty. And for the present time, resolution awarding professional services contract. This was resolution 228, which is reintroduced. Whereas the Borough of Englewood Cliffs seeks to procure special counsel to represent the borough with respect to affordable housing matters, and whereas such legal representation of the professional service tax exempt from bidding under NJSA 40A:11-5 1AI, and whereas the Borough Council seeks to retain the services of Jerry J. Dasty Esquire and award professional services contract to his firm, Dasty Murphy McCookin, Mulake and Connors, 620 West Lacey Road, Forked River, New Jersey, 08731, to perform such services at a rate of $225 per hour in the total amount not to exceed the amount appropriated in the Borough Council's budget for the calendar year of 2024 as amended and supplemented for a contract term effective upon adoption of this resolution and expiring when canceled by the borough. And whereas to the extent required by the provisions of NJSA 19:44A-20.4, it's sick, it's that's Latin, it's sick. Yeah. This was yes. The firm shall complete and submit a business entity disclosure certification which certifies that it has not made any reportable contributions to a political or candidate committee in the Borough of Englewood Cliffs in the previous 1 year, and that the contract will prohibit the same from making any reportable contributions through the term of the contract pursuant to NJSA 19:44 20.5, which shall remain on file for 10 days prior to the borough entering into any contract with the firm. Now therefore be it resolved that the Borough Council of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs hereby awards the professional services contract to Dasty Murphy McCookin, Rocky and Connors, consistent with the foregoing. Be it further resolved that the mayor and borough administrator are hereby authorized and directed to execute a professional services contract, providing for the foregoing subject to review and the approval of the borough attorney as legal formed. There was one other resolution. I don't know if I did the resolution. No.
Okay, so let's stick with the one.
Let's stick with this one.
Mr.
Yes.
Mayor, can I have the floor?
Have the floor.
Thank you.
Have it all yours.
20.
Yes.
This resolution.
Yeah, this was one that was on, this is the one, essentially it's the same resolution that was on for the emergency meeting.
Okay.
But as I think I may have indicated,
Yes.
you know, that normally my process is if there's a emergency meeting or there's a meeting where, you know, it's anything out of the ordinary. You know, my typical process is that at the next regular meeting, that you either repeat it or you don't have to. It's happening.
My question. Mr. Dasty and the housing attorney. Is that what you do?
You should go.
I just wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, this around where he can speak for himself. So, you know, and you know, and there's different things that we've also talked before, you know, about whether or not. Just like you had previously in some instances where you had kind of a litigation person. In some instances, the board also had like, as a example, like, yeah, and out kind of working together. Retention of Mr. Dasty doesn't preclude the borough from deciding that at some point in time, they want somebody else additional. It doesn't preclude the borough from changing its mind, so they can change their mind on borough attorney or any special counsel. You know, the borough can decide that. The borough certainly decide that they want Mr. Dasty to, you know, handle litigation, but that they want to bring somebody else on to work with Mr. Dasty on the negotiations or details up. If you feel that that's necessary, I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying that there's nothing that limits the biggest problem here, just as an aside, and I don't want to belabor this, but unfortunately, you know, with the timing of everything that happened, and you guys don't have to argue about how, but I get it. But from a practical standpoint, you know, I had asked the lawyers for $800 for a 2-week and that was personal, just personal one. The other one was, you know, part of the confusion or some of the issues that we have here are a result of the fact that there was a deadline on a Tuesday that wasn't pushed back and it wasn't pushed back until, you know, another Friday, well, it wasn't. So we can argue about all that. I'm just saying there's a practical issue here, which is, you know, borough had to act quickly, we had to do something. Now we're stuck with where it is, and it is what it is, but so I think right now, this resolution that David just read isn't necessary. Because really all it's doing is ratifying what's already taking place on the emergency meeting. So it's not necessary, it's as the borough attorney, it's always felt suspended, so I would recommend just doing it, so that way, if there's any issues, you know, when obviously raised issues, this is an opportunity for, you know, the council to re-debate it. If the council decided differently, then you could decide differently. Theoretically, it's not necessary. Mr. Dasty's already been hired. And it doesn't stop you from at your rework, you know, Mayor Park's gonna come in, he's gonna make recommendations, obviously the borough's gonna take action. So that's illegal. That's you know, that's kind of where should
It's part of the agents, because we got nothing. Yeah, us hiring him.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if maybe somebody will, maybe on the other side of the mayor. Possibly.
Well, this process, I don't believe anything's been put, you know, before right now. I don't know what's happened. I don't think you were on the council. Very well, Mr. Dasty was here last time.
No, I was.
So, you know, Mr. Dasty is a known quantity to the borough. I think that was. Yeah.
It's just stopgap measure. Some issues that I raised, you know, we don't just pass. Nice vehicle to say if we did anything wrong with the emergency meeting. Or just correcting it, because like I said, there could be things wrong when we had the emergency meeting. Okay, yeah. Second one is the resolution that we just passed about opposing. Is that the court order? So
all it is say to the court, there's an issues raised, right? If you read all the court papers, one of the issues raised by some of you, Mr. Dasty had authority, or there's a question about authority to file the motion for reconsideration. And there was a question, I think, raised by the judge with regard to what is the borough's position. So all this resolution does is authorize the borough to go back to the judge. The judge said the motion for reconsideration was not proper in terms of how it was laid out. You had a question, there was verification submitted by members. this is now the opposing side. If you're- this represents the majority of the governing body, judge, make a call and now you. Okay.
Okay, cover roll call.
I don't have a second.
Oh, you.
No, you.
No, you second.
Okay, cover roll call.
Member Valari,
Yes.
Member Katrubis.
Yes.
Member Kim,
Abstain.
Council President Luciano,
No.
Member Simon. No. Member Di Gregorio.
Yes.
And it passes.
Okay, it'll pass. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Matt.
One last resolution, if I can indulge.
On one floor, please.
This is another resolution. Can I make a motion to read this? I can pass out the copies. Here we go.
You, Busy Beaver, does he?
Now. So that we don't have the floor.
Saying.
The petulant. This is why we don't have ice on town. This is why we don't have ice.
Number.
The Councilman, House President's point about the resolution we're going out. And some of the judges rule otherwise. I'm going to include how and stuff, because I mean, to make sure that the borough understands that, unless the judge rules otherwise.
I wouldn't do that. I would do that.
So I just wanted to make sure that you start saying, if there's email that pops up next week, and somebody says, why is that on an email? Unless the judge rules otherwise, I'm under an obligation to include out, be working with them until the judge says, oh.
So it's not going to be this judge. You need to go to another judge.
Yeah, but just want to make sure.
So this resolution again is yes.
Let's read the first column, just read. See that it is. Okay. Already, there's no reason.
Resolution to require the chief financial officer of the borough of the borough to provide monthly financial reports to the governing body. Again, it's okay, there you go. So again, this resolution is to enhance good government, inform the council as to where we are. Okay.
The resolution has to be spoken.
Okay, I'll be glad to read it. Whereas it is important for the mayor and council.
If you want, I'll.
Whereas it is important for the mayor and council, the governing body of the borough of Englewood Cliffs, to be regularly updated regarding the financial condition of the borough, and whereas the governing body relies on accurate financial information to make various decisions, and whereas the chief financial officer of the borough is in the best position to provide financial information to the governing body on a regular and consistent basis. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. The chief financial officer of the borough is hereby directed to prepare the following monthly financial reports as data bank and other depositories where the borough funds are deposited, showing the amount of money on hand at the beginning and end of each month, the amount of interest earned, and the rate of interest. B, a cash flow report showing actual year-to-date operating fund revenues and expenses and projected operating fund revenues and expenses through the end of the current budget year. A tax collection report showing the amount of taxes levied and collected for each quarter of the current budget year, and the amount of uncollected taxes for each quarter of the current budget year. D, a report comparing current year budget expenses to actual paid expenses and encumbrances, highlighting any material deviations. E, a report listing by name of lawyer or law firm all legal bills received and paid year to date and for the month just ended, as well as a list of any unpaid legal bills. 2, all the aforesaid reports shall be filed with the borough clerk and forwarded to each member of the governing body on or before the 5th day of each month, commencing January 2024. This resolution shall take effect immediately. Basically, we just want to be in a better position to make decisions as a governing body. And it's probably not all that time consuming to do. So I make a motion for resolution 230.
Yeah, Glenn, I think you seconded, right?
I'll second it.
Fine. Good.
Member Valari?
Yes.
Member Katrubis? Member Kim? Member Kim?
I abstain.
Councilperson Luciano?
No.
Member Simon?
No.
Member Di Gregorio?
Yes.
This is a meeting that is report by midnight Saturday. So they're all working on that and course it's not in January. Good job.
Mr. Katrubis has the floor.
Yeah, I'll get some motion too, I guess. You got something you can hand it, looks like that.
I would make a motion for Mr. Dasty to order the transcript for today's hearing and the transcript of the previous hearing, please. Second.
I'll second that.
Here, this is an easy one. Can we roll call?
Member Valari?
Yes.
Member Katrubis? Member Kim?
Yeah.
Council President Luciano? Member Simon?
Yes.
Member Di Gregorio?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to require all council members, when they correspond with anybody that has to do with government business, that they share it with every single council member. Because that's what we've been accused of, and the only people who we have to report.
It's not against
We
the.
need to say.
Yes.
Provided it's not a violation of a public meetings act.
Well, just like with Mr. Dasty, there's no reason to say that I'm afraid of releasing attorney-client privilege to a council person. I don't believe that there's an Oprah violation to send it to us. If there is, then send it to us each individually.
I mean, look, you gotta be thick-skinned both ways, right? You can't just dish it out and not be able to take it. You know, I see what Hal did, I see what Serenian did, I see what Fowler did. It's informative, she had it in front of your body. So now listen.
Job. Administrator has the right to share with the entire council, so the borough administrator has the information, it should be shared.
So just copy the borough.
I did. Didn't you?
It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, just copy the borough administrator and it'll show the side if you guys get it.
Member Valari?
Okay. This man is the most rudest person I've ever met in my life. I'm sorry to say that he's Italian. Yes.
Member Katrubis?
I don't even know anyone. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that.
Okay, you don't say anything, don't say anything for the next one.
Member Fournier?
Yes.
Council President Luciano? Member Simon?
Yes.
Member Di Gregorio?
That's fine.
First to our opportunity because I.
So, again, as you all know, if it's a simple email, you can copy the group. If it's a discussion or where there's decision-making points. So as an example, the administrator can send everybody an email that says, we got this court meeting in today. That's okay. If you all start going back and forth to discuss it, that's a problem. The other thing that I think you should at least consider, maybe for a future meeting, is that if all of you were copied on every email, quite frankly, the number of emails that the borough administrator is going to have with professionals, I email the borough administrator, as a borough attorney, you're going to have communications. But quite frankly, you guys may miss the actual important stuff because every email the borough administrator gets is not relevant from a policy making standpoint. And if you're copying each other on every email, God love you, like figure out what's now. But that's my own.
Listen, Mr. Katrubis at the floor next. Four. Oh, God.
Make a motion. Mr. wants us to not to have any conversations with anyone without the presence of Mr. Dasty. And he's not to bind the borough for any reason.
So I think should not, but I think, Councilwoman is if you want to make a motion, and the borough attorney ultimately, I'm in charge of all. Ultimately legal operations, I think, and so far, as far as I know, just to be clear, as far as I know, Al, I worked okay with Al over the past couple of weeks, we've fine. But I think if your motion really should be that, the borough attorney should be, all legal operations ultimately come under the to come under my ultimate jurisdiction and that, I'm authorized to handle those matters and that all special counsel, not just outright, but will not be, setting up the borough housing, should be keeping the borough attorney apprised and the borough attorney's office of designation here. So I think it's already there. If you want to make a motion, I don't think it should be just, I can't talk to people. It should be run through my office. Okay. And that's not inconsistent with the court's order because Al and I already work with you. On the stuff that we're required to make.
Can I make a motion, please?
I like my idea.
Who's the second?
If you feel it's unnecessary, but,
I think it's necessary, but if you want to make it, I think it's and you can't find anybody until, like, none of us can find everybody.
I'd like to make a motion that our affordable council, Mr. Dasty provided for the weekly report. As to the status of what's going on with affordable housing.
And to find out copy of all the course.
And well, I already asked them that, hopefully I'm gonna get that in just a few minutes, but and any and all correspondence between anybody. On the governing body, anybody with regard to who were challenging litigation or. Anybody that we're trying to settle 800 Sylvan Michael's group, we want a weekly, just like they want a weekly report from everybody, we want a weekly report.
Like, yeah, copies of all correspondence.
Yeah, but you guys never did that. I had no problem. I said, but. He's a salt.
I second the motion, or not.
So, yeah, this is the content professional, he didn't keep you referrals.
There's a motion second, please take.
Member of the line. Member of the line. Attorney just said that he's gonna provide us, so I don't have to have a motion, so it's
Like I said, I sound false, but Tim can tell you whatever.
Member James.
You can believe it.
Yes.
All right.
Council President Luciano, member to Gregorio. Passes.
Can I have a vote? Besides. Can I have a motion to go into closed session?
Second.
All in favor?
Journey.
So. So.